Yeah, so hi, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, sir.
So, yesterday we finished up with clause 6, up till clause 6. So, in professional ethics, how much of the information have we got till now? Ton of information, right? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So, how much do you expect we'll get today now? How much do you expect? Yes,
Total.
2 ton, right. So, clause 6 we'll just revise first and then we'll start with clause 7 again, right? So clause 6, yesterday we saw what, that a CA in practice shall be deemed to be guilty of professional misconduct if he solicits clients or professional work either directly or indirectly by way of circular, advertisement, personal communication, or by interview, or by any other means. But a CA can ask from another chartered accountant practice for securing any professional work. Similarly, he can respond to tenders provided there is a guideline with respect to tender that he needs to follow. And that's what we saw here as well. We summarized the guideline. So guideline states what, that tender by government or tender by anywhere which is specifically reserved for chartered accountant, then you can accept that tender only and only when minimum fee is prescribed. If minimum fee is not prescribed, then you cannot respond to that tender. Similarly, a tender which is not reserved for chartered accountant, that means anyone can take up that tender, anyone can apply for the tender, then in that case you can also respond to that tender whether or not minimum fee is prescribed or not. And then we saw some of the council guidelines, that is with respect to advertisement, and first was with respect to newspaper and notes and press. So first was with respect to, you should not solicit work or advertise in any manner that could be that could be leading to publicity of his work. Similarly, personal canvassing was not allowed, and letters to potential client, possible client, and circulating the letters to them was not allowed. Then exceptions to all these above rules, for one was in the case, again you can ask work from chartered accountant in practice for your professional work. And similarly, second was advertising the changes in partnership, the changes in profit sharing, or the changes in um, your contact address, your contact number, all these changes could be advertised in the newspaper, provided that the number of insertions should be limited, area of circulation should be adhered to, and thirdly, your uh, it should contain only bare statement of fact and nothing more. So it should contain only bare statement of fact, area of circulation, and your number of insertion. These three things you have to keep in mind. And then we also saw what, classified advertisement in the journal or newsletter of ICI was allowed, subject to the information which only deals with what, which only deals with your uh, if you want to give work on assignment basis, or if you want to hire a salaried partner, salaried employee, or any partner for profit sharing basis, or based on anything that is required by your firm, then you can give your contact number, fax number, email address, telephone number, name, address, name, and your, of course, social networking website as well. And further, it was also clarified that in order to reach to a particular candidate which is your proper candidate, then you can also state your number of years of experience and area of specialization in the field of work. And then we also saw what, roving inquiry was not allowed. Roving inquiry meant what? Roving inquiry means anything, any inquiry in which you does not know the existence of that particular thing. So that means what, when you are asking for a panel empanelment in a certain panel and you don't know whether there exists a panel or not, then in that particular case you will be deemed to be guilty of professional misconduct under clause 6 of part 1 of schedule 1. In the case of roving inquiry, since you didn't know the existence of panel, but you just went there and asked whether there exists a panel, and if yes, do enroll myself as well. And then we stop what, EMD security deposit, in which ICI do not want to intervene, do not want to interfere. It says what, in the case of exorbitant deposit, the matter will be dealt with by the ethical standard board on the case to case basis. And similarly, we saw what, publication of books, articles, and presentation, and now the chartered accountant name as well as name of the firm is allowed for you to write in your books, articles, or presentation published. And then issue of greeting cards or invitation in your wedding or in your any marriage or religious ceremony or any sort of event, inauguration of office or any sort of event, you can just mention your CA name and the name of the firm in the wedding card, in the greeting cards, provided this cards are circulated only and only to clients, relatives, and friends of the members concerned. Clients, relatives, and friends of the members concerned, not your partner, not your any other friend, friends, relative. So clients, relative, and friend of the members concerned. And then we saw what advertisement with respect to silver, golden jubilee, or platinum jubilee and centenary celebrations. This is allowed by the ICI provide because of the reason that there would be socialization or relationship of them among the members would get strengthened. That is, a get together occasion could be occurred sort of like that. And then sponsoring activity was allowed by the ICI, but only with respect to the event which is being organized by program organization unit of ICI with the prior approval of Directorate of CPE, continuing professional educational Directorate of CPE. He has to approve prior approval of Directorate CPE has to be obtained for this event, and this event is organized by POU, program organizing unit. Then in this event you can sponsor yourself, otherwise then this event you cannot sponsor any other event except for CSR event. CSR event again you can sponsor, but again name of the firm should not be mentioned, as well as CA logo should not be mentioned. Then we went on to advertisement of teaching coaching activities by members. So I told you that yes, I can advertise subject to the regulation that I have to fulfill in regulation given in regulation 190A, read with clause 11, read with clause 11. And this meant what this told me, that yes, I can have my signboard just outside the premise of my coaching premises, and that should contain only and only my name, contact number, and the subjects that I teach. Name, contact details, and the subject that I teach. Only that much details I have to give in the board, which should be just outside my coaching premises and nothing else where. And further, the size and type of the board should be the same as in the case of the name of the firm and the firm board, or board in which the name of the firm is there, right? So there you must be knowing how the board of the firm name, that is Chandak and Associate, how should the board be? It should not be too large, it should not be too big, it should not be too small, it should be that much big that is uh, visible to the eyes. And similarly, it should not be having any glow sign boards or any sort of like that boards should not be there. Same guidelines will apply in the case of coaching boards as well. And then we saw few questions. Sharing firm profile with prospective client, I told you that it is not permitted unless the client itself asks us, unless there is a ask from the client and we are just responding to the proposed client specific query. And then television or movie credit, I told you we can have our credits in the movies, but there should not be any differentiated credits, that is no special thanks or different fonts or anything sort of that is coming into the eyes of the spectators differentiately. And then professional work by making roving inquiries, I told you it was not allowed. Then 140 subsection 4, scope of representation which an auditor is entitled to make. So here we will again see section 140 subsection 4 in company audit, where we told what that in the case of expiry of a tenure of an auditor and the company does not want that auditor to continue, instead want some other auditor to replace him, then in that case they have to give notice to the auditor. Auditor has the right to represent himself, auditor also has the right to represent himself, and he will give a notice to the board of members, and that notice has to be forwarded to the annual general meeting members as well, along with the notice of AGM. So in this notice what will also be there was representation letter of auditor, and in this representation letter what all things that you as an auditor can tell to the board, to the members of the AGM, to the members of the company. So in this you can only specify what, you can only say that I acted in a dignified manner, I acted independently throughout the course of my audit, and I consistently perform my duties. And if the company does willing to if the company does try to appoint me again as an auditor, then yes, I am willing to get myself appointed as an auditor. That is the only thing that you can say here. In the case of scope of representation which an auditor is entitled to make under section 140 subsection 4, no exaggeration, no claiming of yourself as a better auditor or nothing sort of that you will start saying that because of me I pointed out so many frauds in the company, I pointed out that there are lacunae in the internal controls, or anything sort of that in which you are just exaggerating about yourself. And then lastly, acceptation of the original professional work by member which emanated from the client introduced by another original member. So originally I was the um, I was the CA of my client, and then client I met. I told you yesterday also we saw an example where the client met Dhanlakshmi and took all the books of account from my office and directly went to the Dhanlakshmi's office. So Dhanlakshmi has to do what? Dhanlakshmi has to tell the client that he has to come through Yash. He has to come through me before accepting the audit. Dhanlakshmi has to tell the client that yes, I can accept, but subject to the condition that you have to come through other member who originally had my work, who originally had your work. And then public interview, I told you that yes, public interview you can tell about your name, firm, but again it should not be leading to undue publicity. It should not be leading to any undue publicity in a manner which will be highlighting your professional attainment or um, any detail sort of your firm name or highlighting your professional attainment should not be given unless it has been asked by you, and it should not lead to any undue publicity. Members or firms who publish advertisement under box numbers publishing is not allowed. Educational videos, we saw what? No reference should be made to the firm name, no reference should be made to the partner proprietor of our firm, and that the strip or any sort of contact detail or website address should not be given in your educational videos leading to any sort of publicity. That's what we saw in our clause 6. And also we saw what? Website guidelines. We saw there is a no structure format, there is no color format that needs to be other to making of the website. We also saw what? That it should run on push or pull model. It should run on push or pull model. Yes,
Full model.
pull model. And what all things were there which should be shown on the website only on pull basis, only on pull basis? Do you remember those 6 points? Can i show can i show job, number of jobs that is being vacated in my firm directly as a on the bulletin board of the website, or I need to show it only on pull basis? Tell me. Yes,
Job vacancies can be shown on push basis only.
job vacancies can be shown on push basis. Um similarly, Kapil, tell me, number of article assistant, number of partners, can I show this
Yes, sir.
on
We
push
can
basis?
show number of article. अच्छा, sorry, आप number of article required, I thought, but no, no, no. Number of article working
Number
in the
of
firm cannot be
articles,
shown.
number of partner has to be on pull basis only. So all this 5 points, sorry, not 6, 5 points has to be done on pull request only. Nature of service that I render, partner details, area of experience, details of employee, details of article assistants, and number of article assistant, and nature of assignments that you handle. This has to be on pull basis. That means we saw yesterday also that if we click on certain link, then only this details should be shown, else it should not be anywhere on the website, right? So nature of service rendered, na, that you'll see on most of the website, that yes, they will mention at auditing, taxation, finance, but when you click on the auditing, then only you will see the detailed nature of services that is being rendered by the firm. It's like just the kind of theme that they give to you, what all sort of service that is being provided, but not the exact details until and unless you click on that particular link. Then year of establishment, firm's address, this all I can give. Can I give a photograph in which I am handshaking someone with someone, and can I put that photograph on my website?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, it
No.
has to be
Passport
what?
size photo.
It has to be
Passport size photo.
passport style photography, passport style photograph. And can I show my name of clients and fees that I charge?
No.
Yes or no?
No, no, sir.
No,
No.
right? So name of clients and
Except in
fees charged
compliance.
can be, but subject to one condition. There was a proviso with respect to this condition, where in which case I have to show name of client and fees charged. What was that?
If law required,
If there is a requirement by a regulator, for example, if there is a requirement by RBI that you have to disclose the name of this Bandhan Bank and fee that you charge to Bandhan Bank. This is a requirement for example, suppose by RBI, whether or not the RBI or any other sort of regulator, whether or not they constituted under statute in India or outside India. But one thing we have to ensure is that we have to adhere to only to the requirement that is required by the regulator and nothing more than that. And also in that case we have to show in italics what, um, we have to show that what, who was the regulator, under which jurisdiction does this regulator operates, and what is the circular name reference of the circular or by which the regulator has operated us to disclose the name of the client and fees charged, right? And then we saw what bulletin boards, about chat rooms. Yes, chat rooms can be amongst whom, amongst us and ICI, and among us and our clients. So quickly tell me, there is a chat books chat room which is being provided by my in my website, wherein any sort of person can connect with me for asking whether or not I provide this service, and what is the quotation if I do provide this service. Will this be allowed, do you think, or will be held just GPM? Any person can inquire in this chat room, chat box.
Only the members can, client and
So
members.
he is not my client, right? Right now he's my like kind sort of proposed client, potential client, but not my client. So that will not be allowed. That should not be there. Similarly, details in the website to solicit client should not be there, any sort of such details, and no advertisement shall be permitted on the website. And yeah, this was important point number 15. The website may provide a link to the website of ICI, its regional council, branches, website of government department, regulatory authorities, and other professional bodies. Only this much links can be provided in your website. One question also we saw yesterday with respect to what? The website link of the All India Association of Chartered Accountant was present. So do you think All India Association of Chartered Accountant is included in this list? No. And therefore you will be held grossly professional misconduct under clause 6 of part 1 of schedule 1. So let's now jump to clause 7 of part 1 of schedule 1. Which part of professional ethics is newly added? Yeah, that is given at the last of your chapter with respect to NOCLAR. NOCLAR newly differentiated disclosure requirement and one exemption, and relative size of the fee, and of course your NOCLAR that is newly added in your November 2023 attempt and onwards. So that we'll discuss later in the last NOCLAR.
So sir, this will be next class, right? It will be covered in next class.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
So quickly come to clause 7. So CA in practice shall be deemed to be guilty of professional misconduct. A CA in practice shall be deemed to be guilty of professional misconduct if he advertises his professional attainments or services that he renders and is advertising the same, or one thing, you will be held GPM here, or you will be held GPM again if he uses any designation, any designation other than a chartered accountant. So if you are using any other designation other than chartered accountant on your professional documents, on your visiting cards, on your letterheads, or on your signboards. So what all things are covered here? Your professional documents, your visiting card, your letterheads, and then of course your signboard. So in these four things, if you are using any designation other than chartered accountant, then you will be held grossly professional misconduct, unless this designation is a degree of university established by law in India or recognized by the central government, or is it a title? It's a title, not a designation, which indicates membership of Institute of Chartered Accountant or membership of any other institution that has been recognized by CG or as may be recognized by the council. So, for example, ICI says what? Do not use the designation cost accountant. Do not use the designation cost accountant, but you can use title, for example, CMA, ACMA, associate cost and management accountant. You can use the title cost and management accountant. Do not use the designation accountant, cost accountant. Similarly, do not use the designation company secretary, or do not use the designation lawyer. Getting this? So we'll see in detail clause 7 also. You should mention here section 7 of Chartered Accountant Act 1949. That also we'll see later after completing clause 7. Section 7 also. Both are same, section 7 and clause 7. In terms of number, section 7 of CA Act 1949 and clause 7 of part 1 of schedule 1 of Chartered Accountant Act 1949. So yes, what does the clause says? Come again. A CAP shall be deemed to be GPM if he advertises his professional attainments or services that he, or professional attainments, you understand, right? Professional attainments in terms of what? Your achievements, professional achievements that you have achieved, or any sort of professional services, and you are advertising the same. Or similarly, you will be held GPM if you uses any designation other than chartered accountant, provided unless it is a degree which is being recognized by the law of India, or is a title which is recognized by the council, or is recognized by the central government, or recognized by the council, then it is allowed. Provided that member in practice may advertise through a write-up setting out the services provided by him or his firm and particulars of his firm, subject to such guidelines as may be issued by the council. So write-up guidelines we'll see separately. How do you advertise through write-up? Write-up is nothing but any sort of advertising which you are doing by in a written mode. So write up guidelines will see what all things you have to mention in case you are advertising through write up, advertisement through write up guideline, which we were seeing yesterday, advertisement guideline. Just about that, there was also write up guidelines. Now let's see other designations. What all other designations you can use? So just now I told you what you cannot use: cost accountant, you cannot use company secretary, you cannot use cost consultant, tax consultant, management consultant. All these designation do you cannot use, because it is other than chartered accountant, and clause 7 strictly prohibits using the same. So it is improper for a CAP to state his professional document that he is a tax consultant, cost management, management consultant, company secretary, cost accountant, like that. But but here you can use insolvency professional or registered valuer. Just remember this. You can use insolvency professional or registered valuer respectively on your visiting cards and letterheads. You can use this. On your visiting cards and letterheads, you can use what? Registered valuer and insolvency professional, because if you have learned section 247 of Companies Act with respect to what? Registered valuer. There is a separate chapter in the Companies Act with respect to registered valuer under section 247. As far as I remember, there you have to qualify yourself as a registered valuer after clearing the examination, which is being again held by chartered accountant, and you need to have 5 years of experience, post qualification experience of 3 years or 5 years. I don't exactly remember the number of years, but you need to have post qualification experience, and then you need to also clear the examination. Similarly, insolvency professional IBBI examination is also held by Institute of Chartered Accountant or Institute of Company Secretaries only, or Institute of CMA. So this examination, if you are clearing this, then IP or registered valuer, these two designation you can use on your letterheads or visiting cards. You can use on your letterheads and visiting cards. But again, you cannot use corporate lawyer designation. I'll tell you the reason why you cannot use corporate lawyer designation, because already can't you provide services with respect to the services which a lawyer provides? Example, GST compliances, or PF, EPF, ESIC compliances, or with respect to any indirect taxes compliances, or direct tax consultancy compliances, or whatever sort of service a corporate lawyer provides. Can't you use, can't you provide those services as a chartered accountant? Yes or no? Right? We
Yes,
can.
sir, we can provide.
So therefore, what is the need to specifically mention a corporate lawyer when as a chartered accountant also you can provide the all these services? So therefore, corporate lawyer you cannot use this designation. Clear? Then a member must not also use the designation such as member of parliament, municipal councillor, nor any other functionary in addition to that of chartered accountancy. So MP, MLA, Vidhayak, all this designation cannot be used by a CA. So we'll just see again what all things we cannot use: cost accountant, cost consultant, management consultant, tax consultant, MP, MLA, or corporate lawyer. All these designation can't be used by a CA. But can you use insolvency professional or registered valuer? Yes. Then permission to mention qualification of certain institution. So there are certain institution in which CA of India, Institute of Chartered Accountant of India, has tied up, and therefore the members are now being permitted to mention a title on their visiting cards to indicate membership of a foreign institute of accountancy, which has been recognized by the council. So not all the foreign institute of accountancy, but only those institutes which has been recognized by the council. So therefore, which institutes have been recognized? Example: South African Institute of Chartered Accountants, Institute of Certified Public Accountants, Ireland, not CPA US, CPA Ireland, Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales, ICAW, if you have heard of this, ICAW. So these three examples have been given to you as a sort of institutes, foreign institutes, which is being recognized by the ICI for you to write in your visiting card, if at all you are a member of this institute. These three institute have been given as an example, and a question also came in RTP November 2022. So is an important point for you all, can come in exam, because I'll quickly now move to section 7 of Chartered Accountant Act 1949, which I was telling. That also tells you that you cannot use CPA US or CPA or any sort of foreign institute membership. But here in under clause 7, they have given that yes, you have been permitted to use foreign institute membership if at all those has been recognized by the institute. So do you think can we use CA Pakistan if you are a member of CA Chartered Accountancy of Pakistan also? Then
No.
no. Right, so let's just see section 7 also just along with this. Section 7, just above first schedule, where we saw this chart with respect to disciplinary action. Just beside that, you'll see member in practice is prohibited from using a designation other than chartered accountant, which is being held by what? Section 7 of Chartered Accountant Act 1949. It says what? Moti now permitted to use prefix CA before their name, whether or not they are practicing or not. So even if you are not a practicing chartered accountant, even if you are an employee in a company, you can still use prefix chartered accountant, CA prefix. Merchant banker advisor to an issue. So can you write advisor or consultant to an issue? Can you write advisor to an issue? Merchant
Yes,
banker?
sir.
No, not on your visiting cards or other platforms or other professional document. Only in the prospectus where it is required. See, in the prospectus, maybe it is required that who all is the merchant banker in your IPO, FPO, or whatever offering you are offering, right? So, advisor, consultant to the issue, IPO, FPO, whatever consultant, whoever, if you are a consultant, if you are an advisor to this issue, in the client's company offer document and advertisement is allowed. Company's offer document, which is what your prospectus, red herring prospectus, or DHRP, whatever be the offer document, in there you can allow, in there it is allowed that yes, CA Yash Chandak is the advisor to the issue. CA Yash Chandak is the advisor or consultant to the issue. There it is allowed. However, name, address of your chartered accountancy, my firm name, it won't be allowed to be written on the prospectus. I just have to mention that CA Yash Chandak is the consultant to an issue or advisor to an issue. Getting this? If you are using this as an advisor to an issue in your visiting cards, then it will be GPM. Clear? And GPM where under clause 6 or 7? GPM under clause 6 or 7?
7.
7. So one point of difference I want to highlight here against clause 6 versus clause 7. Many of you will get confused after solving few of the questions in clause 7. Sir, why can't we write clause 6 also here? Just remember the difference that leads to what? If they give in the question visiting card, professional documents, letterheads, or signboard, then straight away clause 7 will come. If they give you professional document they are advertising, or any sort of designation you are using on your letterheads, professional documents, visiting cards, signboards, then straight away clause 7 will be coming. And if you are suppose advertising your professional achievements, then also clause 7 will come. Again, if you are advertising in as in the services that you are offering, then of course you can say clause 6 plus clause 7 both. In case of doubt, you can again write clause 6 and clause 7 both, but specifically in the cases where they mention offered they mention visiting card, signboard, letterhead, professional documents, you have to mention clause 7. Remember this. Clear? Anyway, in case of doubt, you can always write clause 6 as well. So that is a sort of major doubt that I always come across from the students. Many of you will again sort of have the same doubt after revising, like when you will revise. So just remember this. You can also write down just beside the clause 7 what we'll write later. Just come across here, section 7. It says what? Directors of companies, members of political parties, positioning to clubs. Suppose you are assistant vice president or president of any club, you are president of any club, chairman of any club, then you cannot write chairman of Rotary Club as in your designation. You cannot write all this. Director of company, political party, chairman, or chairman to club is not permitted to mention this position, as this would violate section 7 of the Chartered Accountant Act. Section 7. Members who are cost accountant, they specifically prohibits you to use cost accountant, but yes, you can use the letter ACMA or FCMA after your name. After your name, you can use ACMA, FCMA as a title. Similarly, permission to mention qualifications of certain institution. I told you with respect to foreign institutes, you are permitted to mention membership of a foreign institute of accountancy which has been recognized by the council. So institute generally tends to do what? They generally tends to sign an MOU, MRA, Memorandum of Understanding, or Mutual Recognition Agreement, MRA, MOU. They generally tend to sign with other foreign institutes. So memorandum or understanding or MRA, if at all it is being signed and recognized by the institute that yes, you can use this foreign institute membership, then you can use. Otherwise, you cannot. And here it is strictly prohibited to use CPA on your visiting cards. But can I use CPA Ireland? Can I use CPA Ireland? Yes. Yes, we can use, right?
Yes, we can.
So just try to link both section 7 as well as clause 7. You can also write here link clause 7. ठीक है. Now let's move to other points of clause 7. What does it say? There are again a lot many guidelines which have been issued by, I say, under clause 7. Two of the guidelines we already saw with respect to other designation and with respect to qualification or membership of any foreign institute that can be mentioned the same on our visiting cards. Now comes the date of setting up of practice. Date of setting up of a practice. Do you remember in the website, can we write year of establishment? Can we write year of establishment on our website?
Yes,
Yes
sir.
or no?
Yes. Yes,
Yes,
sir.
yes.
Yes. But while you while like you are advertising under clause 7, then you cannot write date of setting up of practice. Date of setting up of practice mentioning the same is prohibited, is not permitted. Should not be mentioned. Should not be mentioned. Clear? Just remember this difference. Clause 6, you can write year of establishment of the firm. Date of setting up of practice is prohibited under clause 7. Now, can you practice as an advocate? So quickly tell me, you must be aware about the fact till which platform a CA can fight against for his client, till CIT appeal, till ITAT, and then appeal
IT80,
to High Court. So can we
IT80 तक,
IT80
up
tak,
to
right?
IT80.
Up to IT80. Then above that, if you want to again fight for your client, then you will have to have an advocacy, that you should be an High Court advocate as well. You should be an advocate of High Court. Then only you can submit or file an appeal in High Court. So, do you know the difference between lawyer and this advocate? Who are lawyers and who are advocates?
Yes, sir.
So, what is the difference?
Sir, a person who has completed his graduation in law is a person lawyer. After taking the bar council certification, he becomes advocate.
Yeah. So if you complete your LLB and lawyer graduation, then a you will be called a lawyer. But to become an advocate, you have to practice under an advocate for a year, or I don't exactly remember, and then you will get a certification. You have to clear your bar council examination as well to become an advocate and practice under an advocate. Similarly, to become a high court advocate, you have to again practice under an high court advocate. Then you will get to become advocate under high court. Similarly, for Supreme Court, there is another provision to become an advocate of Supreme Court. Then only you can file appeal in Supreme Court. Then only you can file as an advocate of Supreme Court, an appeal in Supreme Court. So, if you want to practice as an advocate, this can be allowed by the institute. This can be allowed to the institute subject to the permission of the Bar Council. If Bar Council is allowing you to practice as a chartered accountant as well as CA, then institute also won't be having any sort of problem in you to practice as a CA as well as an advocate. So if eligible, you can practice as advocate subject to the permission to be granted by Bar Council of India. But in such case, you cannot use designation CA and advocate simultaneously. That means what? Suppose you have an visiting card where you are using what? Chandak and Associates, Chartered Accountancy Firm, and also you are writing advocacy firm, or advocate Yes, Chandak advocate. So you cannot use these two designations simultaneously anywhere in your professional documents, anywhere in your letterheads. You have to issue separate visiting cards, or you should must have all these professional documents separately, where this designation should not be clubbed together, should not be used simultaneously. So that is what it has to say. Chartered accountant matters involving the practice as an advocate. For other matters, they should use designation chartered accountant. That is what they are saying. For matters that deals with advocacy, you cannot use CA designation, chartered accountancy designation. You cannot use where you are fighting as an advocate. However, for all the other service that you are providing as a CA practitioner, yes, you can use designation chartered accountancy. However, the point to be noted here is not to use the designation chartered accountant and advocate simultaneously. Are we clear with this point? Any sort of doubt? Practice as an advocate. All these, each and individual point is important. 4-mark question can be framed from each and every point: A, B, C, D, E, F, G, or even an MCQ. Each and every point is important. I told you clause 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Definitely bound to come one or two question. Any doubt? Yes or no? So let's move now to practice as company secretary, practice as cost management, cost accountant. Do you think we can practice both as a chartered accountant as well as company secretary?
No, sir.
So practically, even I haven't seen this. Practically, you won't be allowed to do so either by the CA Institute, or either by the CS Institute, or either by the CMA Institute. If you want to practice as a CA versus and CMA, along with if you want to practice CA and CS, then they tells you what ICA tells you, that if you get the permission of your sister concerns, if you get the permission of our sister institutes means this ICSI, ICMAI, ICMAI, yes. So if eligible, you can practice as a company secretary and or cost management accountant. Such member shall, however, not use designation of the aforesaid institute simultaneously. Same condition as advocate. You should not use same designation simultaneously. If at all you have been granted permission by your sister institutes. So you can use this with the designation chartered accountant. Just that you have to remember that you should not use both these designations simultaneously. It is clarified that in the event of permission being granted to member of the institute in practice, you should have been granted. You should have been granted the to hold COP of your sister institute or bar council. Such a member shall be treated to be in full-time practice only. That means what? This line has a significance. This line tells you that if you get COP of your sister institutes or of bar council, still if you are holding COP of chartered accountancy, you will be deemed to have been a full-time practitioner only in the case of CA, and therefore conditions, or you can say waiver of certain conditions, waiver of certain restrictions on part-time chartered accountancy practice certificate, that is part-time certificate of practice, part-time COP. If you are aware about that, there are two types of COP: full-time COP, part-time COP. So part-time COP, there are certain waiver of restrictions, there are certain relaxations. So here what they are saying, that in the event you have been granted the permission from your sister institute, still you will be considered as a full-time practitioner only, and all the condition with respect to a full-time practitioner as a chartered accountant will be applied to you. Clear or not? Now quickly come to mentioning of firm name except on professional documents. It says what? You should not write your firm name all the places. It should be written only on your professional documents, visiting cards, letterheads, or signboards. These are the places where you should write your firm name, and you should not write your firm name. For example, section 27 of Chartered Accountants Act, CA Act section 27, specifically prohibit you to write your firm name just in front of your home. So you should write firm name in front of your office, but you cannot have a board CA firm name board in front of your office. Of course, you can have CA Yash Chandak as a template, name template in front of your home, or in a home you can have your CA name. Yes, it is allowed, but firm name template, firm name, it's not allowed. That is what it is saying, mentioning of firm name except on professional documents. Yeah, on professional documents it is allowed, visiting card, letterhead, or signboard. Now notice in the press relating to success in an examination. Now what happened? Suppose nupur is Nupur became chartered accountant, and later their relatives, later her relative told her what? That you have an immense potential, you can also clear IAS, you can also clear IAS examination. So now Nupur is preparing for IAS, and cleared in was she cleared all the examinations in the first shot itself, all the rounds of interview, examination, prelims, everything. So now Nupur was an article in under me as a principal. Nupur was an article under me, I was her principal. So I can publicize the same, that yes, my article clear one examination, my article got this much rank or something sort of that, but it should not again lead to undesirable publicity. I cannot state that since I was training during the office hours also to Nupur, after office I used to train her, or I had an immense potential, our firm so many of the same sort of individuals, therefore they got this environment, or any sort of publicity should not occur. So should not contain any element of undesirable publicity either in relation to the article, audit assistant, or an employee, or the member of the firm. Whoever clears your this examination, you can publicize the same, but should not lead to undesirable publicity. It is usual for local papers to publish details of the examination success of local candidates, right? So all the newspapers of locally newspapers will tell Nupur is a belongs to this business family, and her mother is this, that, and everything. You must be aware about this, right? That they mention all this details of the examination success of local candidates. Some biographical information is often included. Then they can also include the name, address, school, local background, examination passed with details of any prize, place gain, name of the principal, firm, and town in which the principal practice may be also published. So these details can also be published while you are publicizing that our article cleared this examination with this all India rank or something. So you can publish all this detail: name, address, school, local background, examination that has been passed, prize that you received, place which you gained, name of the principal, firm name, and town in which the principal is practicing. These details you have to learn that all these detail can be given. Apart from these detail, no detail extra should be given. Any doubt? Yes, Pooja.
Attainments of service or use any other designation other than CA uh, on the professional documents, visiting cards, letters, or other documents. It is permitted to use the title given by the council or the registered university.
Come again. Permitted to use the title
Title of other institutes
and
and degree of university established by law.
degree of university established by law, or title of any other institute which is being recognized by central government or by council. Council means ICI council. Title has to be
Oh,
recognized title only, not any other title.
oh,
Title has to be recognized by the central government or by the council of ICI, or any degree of university established under any law of India. These
oh.
things you can use as designation, but apart from this, any designation that you use, you will be held GPM. And what was clause 6, Suneshwaran?
Solicits is professional work either directly or indirectly
Huh?
through advertisements or circulars,
Advertisement, circulars,
communication or interview.
personal communication or interview, or by any other means, right? But provided that there was a provision also, member of the
Uh,
institute.
he can he can request another member in practice for his professional
Yeah,
work.
another member in practice.
Uh, he can uh, he can respond to tenders or inquiry.
Yeah. So come to now reports and certificates. Reports and certificates issued by a chartered accountant. For example, suppose audit report, or any sort of certificate that you issue for Reliance. Example. Now this report which you have issued should not be circulated at, like, everywhere. Should not be circulated everywhere. What will happen if you start circulating audit report or audit certificates everywhere? Do you think there can be an indirect solicitation that might happen, that everyone might get aware about? Yeah, so this big company, the audit has been performed by Chandak and Associates, or reporting has been done by this. So reporting circulation to all the places can lead to indirect solicitation, and therefore in that particular case the reports and certificate issued by a chartered accountant bring him to the notice of the public. That is what I was saying. If you publish this everywhere, you will be noticed, right, by everyone in a greater or lesser degree. It is therefore incumbent upon him. Incumbent means it is your responsibility now to ensure that the extent and manner of publication of certificates are limited to the extent it is necessary, it is required. The extent of circulation should be limited as much as it is required. That much circulation should happen. The members may, however, note that they should use letterhead of their firm. Of course, in the reports and certificate, all the reports and certificates will use our letterheads only, right? Now, this is very important point again: appearance of chartered accountants on electronic media, including internet. And this is a point where you will get confused as well, because ICI is confusing. They have written both. Firm name can be used, firm name cannot be used. So we'll interpret accordingly. Let's just see what they have written. That appearance of a chartered accountant in an electronic media, including internet, They say that yes, you can appear on television, you can appear on radio forecast, you can appear on films or any sort of internet channels, you can appear there, or any sort of lecture that you are giving at any forum. You can give a detail about your name and your firm name. You can give detail about your name and firm name, but again, it should not lead to undesirable publicity. Special qualifications or specialized knowledge directly relevant to the subject matter can also be given. For example, suppose you must do you know Girish Ahuja sir? Girish Ahuja sir is a leading practitioner in taxation. All the amendments that many of the amendments in the parliament, like in the finance act, so many amendments come in taxation. So few of the amendments are also being proposed by him and is being listened by in the parliament as well. So he is a great practitioner. So after all the budget na, he has a seminar. He conducts a seminar and he provides all the amendments. He in detail explaining why this amendment actually came. What was the reason? What was the lacunae earlier in the act? What was the loophole and how is it being remediated through this amendment? Everything he tells you about the same. So suppose he is giving the lecture at institute. So he has the qualification and specialized knowledge directly relevant to the subject matter, and therefore he can also tells the same. He can also instruct the same. Subject matter of the program may also be given any sort of qualification or specialized knowledge. They also tells you that firm name may also be mentioned. Firm name can also be mentioned. However, again, exaggerated claim or any sort of comparison is not permissible. That is, any sort of publicity should not happen. Publicity is permitted for appointments to positions of local or national importance or for the views of members on matters of similar importance. This is the only sort of publicity which is being allowed by the institute, which is with respect to what I told you what just now, that Nupur became an IAS. Nupur became IAS. So now institute allows Nupur, institute allows Nupur to tell her that she has gained a position of national importance. She has gained a position of national importance. She can publicize the same. Why? Because in a way this is also leading to a reputation build up for institute, that yes, the member coming from the member that is coming from the CA background, she also gained a position of national importance. She also gained a position of very high top notch position of local or national importance, or for the views of the members on matters of similar importance. So she can mention that yes, she was a chartered accountant. This publicity can be done by her, because that is ultimately leading to what? A good reputation for the institute only. So that is being encouraged by the institute. Mentioning to the membership of the institute, again here, mentioning to the membership of the institute is desirable in such cases by the institute. Because what is the aim of the institute? Institute aim is to achieve the suitable publicity for the institute. Aim is what? To achieve a suitable publicity of ICI. Publicity of ICI is being done and its member generally. Now everything will look upon CA as a much more intelligent, right? Because they are getting this also position of local and national importance. So the aim is to achieve a suitable desirability publicity of the ICI and its members in general. Members, now it's the tricky point. They say now what members give talks or lectures or attending conference may describe themselves as chartered accountant only when they are acting capacities as chartered accountant. However, reference to the professional firm of the member should not be given. Here now they say that reference to the professional firm name should not be given. And just above here, they were saying that yes, if you are giving lecture at any forum or any television, films, internet, or agreeing to be broadcasted in a radio, yes, you can give your firm name. You can give your firm name. But just below here, talks or any lecture or any sort of attending conferences. For example, talks, you can take an example of say TED Talks. So here everywhere you can use the CA. You can give reference of CA only when you are acting or representing yourself as a chartered accountant. And in any case, firm name should not be allowed. So based on my comprehension, I'll just give you a differentiation in here and in here. So here there could be the cases where the audience in the lectures or in the conferences or in the any sort of broadcast or any sort of publicity that you are being allowed to do here is the audiences are from the chartered accountancy background or from the business background only, that is relating to your domain, that is relating to your domain. But here could be any sort of lectures or TED talks, sort of talks, lecture, conferences in general, which the audience could be in general all the public in general. So that is sort of a differentiation that you could keep in your mind to differentiate whether a firm name is allowed or not. Firm name is allowed or not. Clear? So just based on that differentiation, this question has come in May 2022. Yeah, May 2022 exam question. Try to solve this. CAP, Chartered Accountant Practice, delivered a speech in national conference organized by Ministry of Textile. So while delivering the speech, he told to audience that he is a management expert and his firm provides services of taxation at reasonable rates. Requested the audience to approach his firm of chartered accountants for these services, and at the request of the audience, he also distributed his business cards and telephone numbers of his firm to choose to those in audience. What do you think? Yes, anyone? Try to attempt at least. What all points you will highlight in this question? Where are the specific points where he is getting guilty? What are all those points? Yeah.
Uh, because he told his audience that he is management expert. His
So
firm
first point is
provides
management
services
expert.
of
Yeah,
yeah his
we'll just go point by point. Management expert you are highlighting. So management expert is prohibited. Where? Clause 6 or clause 7?
in clause 7
Why? How?
using the different designation.
Yeah. So designation other than chartered accountant, right? So management
Yeah.
expert he is using a designation which is other than chartered accountant. Then, yeah, next point.
Next is he showed that his firm provide the services of taxation at reasonable rates.
Yeah.
So he's highlighting that also.
He thought of highlighting his advertising his professional services. Again, clause 7, right? Even clause 6. Then,
Yes. Actually, sir, I could not properly see the screen because I didn't receive this PDF now.
yeah, then it says requested the audience to approach his firm of chartered accountants.
Yeah, this is also the point that he is misconduct in this point also.
So he requested the audience to approach his firm, right? He's giving his
Yeah.
firm name, and this national conference is organized by when Ministry of Textiles. So here it would have been allowed to use the firm name, but he is requesting the others to use, requesting others to approach his firm, and also distributed his business cards. He requested that everyone will ask also, right? Business cards. So he's distributing the same, again soliciting the clients to professional work, to his professional business, right? So clause 6 will also attract here. Clause 6 will also attract here. So I have highlighted few points from the suggested answer. Wherever they have mentioned, tried to mention what? Clause reference. So designated himself as a management expert, clause 7 as well as section 7. Clause 7 as well as section 7, since it is management expert is neither a degree nor a title recognized by the any other institute or any council of TCI. Similarly, he made reference to service provided by his firm. Again, clause 7. And lastly, distribution of cards to the audience will be attract clause 6 as well. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Similarly, see
Yes.
next question. Ramesh Mehta.
In this question, Ramesh Mehta is also guilty for the professional misconduct in clause 7, as he said that as the senior most member of the firm.
Okay, and
This is the reason.
only
The,
can
a firm which is a leading firm.
yeah. So the
And
main reason
claiming
is leading
seniority,
firm,
leading firm.
of CA, and one more reason is there. Two line
Year of
question.
establishment.
Date of establishment. Just now we saw what date of establishment. Can we mention that? No. So date of establishment, adjectives, using adjectives like leading firm is not prohibited by, is not allowed by clause 7, right? Providing emphasizing on the seniority amongst other members is also not allowed. So that is why here he will be held GPM. Clear? Any doubt in these two questions? So now let's start with what? Next point, that is organizing training courses, seminars, etc. for this staff. Just hold on a second. Yeah, so organizing training courses, seminars, etc. for your staff. So do you know this amendment has come up since it has to be implemented from 1st April 2021, but is being postponed to 1st April 2022 and then finally postponed to 1st April 2023, but is now being implemented from 1st April 2023 with respect to accounting software for companies. Accounting software for companies has to be now a software which can also log all your audit trails. So no sort of deletion of the entries or no sort of alteration of the entries can now happen. All these entries, everything that you do will be will have to be created a log. So all the companies, not even, there is no exception to small companies, private companies, not even one person company. All companies have to mandatorily implement in their entity an accounting software which has an auditing trail, which has an auditing trail. So sort of that, for example, now I as a chartered accountancy firm am trying to train my articles, train my staff, train my employees on the same, train my staff, train my articles on this new sort of accounting software that has been come up. So chartered accountant practice can hold these training courses, seminars, etc. for his staff, and may also invite the staff or of other chartered accountants. That is thereby Baju, thereby sides. There must be a many neighboring CA firms as well. You can also invite them. You can also invite the accountants of the business clients that you have. So you can also invite them or any sort of other person that you want to train the same. However, undue prominence should not be given to the name of the CA in any sort of booklet or document that you will issue. So, of course, with the training, you will also issue certain documents, certain booklet for the training purpose, training manual. So, in there, you should not highlight your CA firm details and all the other things. So, undue prominence should not be given to the name of the chartered accountant in any booklet or document issued in connection therewith. Clear? So each and every point a 4 mark question can come. That is why we have to emphasize on each and every point. Writing articles or letters to the press. Now this is again conflicting. Just read this and tell me what is the conflict that you find. Conflict as in what we have already studied till now in clause 6 and what they are telling here in point K.
Okay.
Do you remember what we studied for articles, writing articles? Can I mention firm name?
Yeah, so we can mention chartered accountant and
But
his
can you use firm name?
designation. We may not use the word firm name.
No, firm
No.
name was allowed. I told you that from July onwards, in the July attempt onwards, firm name was allowed by the institute. Before that, it
Okay.
was not there. So firm name is allowed if you publish your book, if you publish your own articles. So CA as well as firm name is allowed. Here they are
Okay, sir.
telling only to use the name of chartered accountant and give description of CA. Given they have nothing specified about using firm name. So if not satisfied, we generally tend to interpret it as not allowed. But since clause 6 specifically allows you to use the firm name, thereby we will give reference of clause 6. Clear? In the case of writing articles or letters to the press, so members writing articles or letters to the press on subjects connected with the profession may give their names and use the description of chartered accountants. CS, description of CS.
Okay, sir.
Specifically for articles, because that's what it was mentioned there also for books articles published. So if your article, you written an article and it's being published in the newsletter in the press, then you can use your CA name as well. Just remember this. Then size of signboard, I told you about this. How much should be the size of signboard? It should not be large, it should not be big enough, it should not be small as well. Should be having adequate size visible to the normal eyes, right? Members should exercise their own discretion and good taste while keeping in mind the appropriate visibility and illumination. The illumination should be limited to the sake of visibility. And however, use of glow signboards is not allowed. Glow signboards like you must have seen in like sort of metro stations or any sort of shop where the light is also inside that board, right? Glowing. So glow signboards or lights on large size boards as is used by traders or shopkeepers is not permissible. A member can have a name board at the place of his residence. I told you that just outside your home, you can have your name board is allowed. But having your firm name, it is not allowed. Section 27 prohibits so. So that is what they have given this again here. Member can have a name board at the place of residence just outside your home with the designation of a chartered accountant. However, name board of an individual member and not name board of the firm. Remember this is important. Yes. Now next point, public announcement with details of the directors. So here now what provision says is for all sort of IPOs, FPOs, you have to issue what? Prospectus, right? Or there is a public announcement. So they said that we have to ensure that the prospectus or public announcements or public communication, we do not advertise your professional attainments. You can use your CA form, CA name, and also that it do not directly or indirectly amount to solicitation of clients for professional work by the member. The member should request the company to get approved by him as far as practicable before mentioning his name in any of the documents. So it is your responsibility as a director, as a chartered accountant, it is your responsibility that once you become a director in any company, you have to specifically instruct the company that whenever you are using my name as a chartered accountant in your prospectus, in your professional documents, in any of the documents of the company, you have to take my permission. You have to take my permission. So it is your responsibility to tell the company about the same. The member should request the company to get approved by him as far as practicable before mentioning his name in any of the documents of the company. Use of expression of CA is permissible in the prospectus. Yes, you will be using what a director CA Mukul Dolani, CA Yash Chandak, CA Puja, or any sort of that. Yes, name of CA designation is allowed in use of designation as in the prospectus. However, member must ensure that description about his expertise, specialization, and knowledge in any particular field or other appellation are not published. That is, there you cannot say a director CA Yash Chandak, also an expert in the field of taxation, or also practicing in the field of taxation since 20 years, All these things you cannot publicize. Yes, you can use the name CA, but do not specifically publicize your firm profile or any sort of specialization that you owe. Then particulars about directorship held by the member in other companies can be mentioned. Yes, definitely. Once you are writing CA Yash Chandak are director, also director in other 7 companies, as acting as an independent director in other 2 companies, and 5 as acting as non-executive director in 5 other companies. These you can mention. This you can mention. However, you cannot give name of the firm of CAs in which member is a partner, and these all details should not be given. That is, who all is your partner, what is your firm name, what is your firm name, what is your details about your partner. This all is not permitted. So what is permitted? Giving details about the directorships held in other companies. What is not permitted? Giving details about the partnership that you held in other partnership firms. So your firm details, partnership details should not be provided. Definitely this detail is required because of the this part. Directorship detail might be a requirement from the SEBI only, that you have to give detail about what all companies you are being held as director. You have to specifically mention that, and that is allowed. But giving details about the partnership is not allowed. Just you can add to that list, that we were adding, where firm name not allowed. You can add there that giving details in the public announcement. In the public announcement, you are not allowed to give detail about your firm name. We were adding here, right? Public announcement as a director in public announcement as a director in any of the documents of company. Note that CA name is allowed. CA name description is allowed. Firm name not allowed. Are we clear? Is there any doubt? Yes, Pooja, Pavan, Nikita. Yes, 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 yes.
So please show the table. I want to write down it.
Private like presentation or private articles. In clause 7, it's about press like newspapers and all. So
So articles published,
can it be differentiated on that basis?
they doesn't tell you there that it normally says that publication of books or publication of articles. So books, all these books and articles publication, it is not only private circulation, right? Anyone in the public can have access to that. Still, if you would like to like, for any sort of doubt in exam, if at all it comes, I highly doubt that, but in case it comes specifically dealing with articles, then you can just note that here they specifically mention letters to the press, articles or to the press, specifically mentioning the press, and there
Yes.
they are not mentioning anything. Anyway, you can mention about both clause 6 and clause 7. In clause 6, firm name is allowed. However, in clause 7, name of description of CA is only allowed.
Okay, sir.
Done, sir.
So let's quickly come to now next guideline, which deals with what network form and networking guidelines. This we will see separately. Networking guideline is very important for me, and is also like kind of a big guideline that we'll deal separately. Now, use of logo, CA logo. Again, this will be dealt separately below, but let's just see a glimpse of the guidelines. In order to ensure compliance with the regulation, Council decided that the use or program of any kind, any sort of style, design, color, etc. is prohibited. You can use only CA logo. So you must have seen this logo, CA logo, right? This is our CA logo. So this tick has to be in blue color. Sorry, this wording has to be in CA, has to be in blue color, and this tick has to be in green color. Blue signifies corporate glow and corporate significance, and green signifies ever going growth. Something sort of that they have given. We'll see later, but that is what they are saying. Apart from this, use of any sort of logo, any sort of monogram, any kind, form, style, design, color, etc., on any display material, media, paper, stationery, visiting card, devices, internet, signboards, or any place is prohibited. Only CA logo is permitted. Use printing of member firm name in any other manner tantamounting to a logo or monogram is also prohibited. You cannot convert your Chandak and Associates name to a logo sort of thing. So Chandak and Associate, I cannot simply do this as my logo. I cannot start using this. If I have created this logo, this will be, I'll be held GPM. Clear? Now common CA logo, what I was telling is this is the correct form of logo where the CA word is in blue and the tick is in green, and it should be an upside down tick, right? Any sort of other form of logo that you see is not allowed, is prohibited. This has to be what? Curvy in nature. This side edges has to be curvy. This is in orange, therefore wrong. The background should be white. Here the background is blue, but the background should be plain white. Therefore this logo is also wrong. The color here is wrong. This is why this is wrong. This is because this is tilted. It should not be tilted. Clear? So you can just see here the letter C have been put in blue. CA letter has to be in blue, signifying the corporate color which not only stands out on any background but also denotes the creativity, innovativeness, knowledge, integrity, trust, truth, stability, depth. And upside down tick mark typically used by the chartered accountants have been included to symbolize the wisdom and value of the profession. The green color in the tick mark, I told you what, is sort of signifying growth, because green means what? Green means yes, you can go forward, right? Red means to stop. So red color signifies stop, green color signifies ever going growth, prosperity, harmony, and freshness. So this CA logo only has to be used. Are we clear? Let's just go through all the questions now. फटाफट से बताते जाओ. Nikita, CA practicing in 3 firms, printing his personal letterhead. He gave the name of all the 3 firms. So in his personal letterhead, he gave the name of all the 3 firms in which he is a partner and practicing. Is it allowed, Nikita? Can you give details about your firm name in your letterhead?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it is allowed, right? While giving speech, told audience as management expert and gave issue cards. That is what the question just we saw, May 2022. Remember? This we have already seen. Obtains category 4 merchant banker. You have obtained the certificate of category 4 merchant banker from SEBI. He designated himself as merchant banker in client's offer documents and advisor to an issue in his professional documents. Is it allowed, Mehak? Yes, Mehak. You have obtained category 4 merchant banker certificate from SEBI, and now you've been designated, you are designated yourself as merchant banker in your client offer document, and also designated yourself as advisor to an issue in your professional document. Yes. you are saying not allowed.
Yeah, on prospectus we can use advisor to an issue, like
So you have to bifurcate the answer, na? There is something which is allowed as well, right? So merchant banker in the client's offer document is allowed. This part is allowed, right?
okay.
This part you can use merchant banker in offer client's offer document. Yes, yourself you can designate yourself as banker. You designate yourself as an advisor to an issue. This is right. This is allowed. However, this is prohibited. So you will be held GPM because of this. You have to specifically mention. You have to first write the clause 7, then also you will write section 7. There you will write that members may designate himself as banker or advisor to an issue in client's offer document, and advertisement is permissible to that extent. However, writing there those designation in professional documents is strictly prohibited under clause 7 and section 7 of Chartered Accountant Act 1949. And then you will conclude by giving facts of the case. And yes, so allowed in offer document but not in professional document like visiting card, letterhead. This is not allowed. Clear? CA empaneled as insolvency professional mentioned the name in his card. Insolvency professional mentioning that in visiting card. Is it allowed, Kapil?
Yes, sir. It is allowed.
Insolvency professional and one more thing was allowed.
Registered
Registered
valuer.
valuer. Visiting card designated himself as tax consultant. Is it allowed, Nupur?
No, it is not allowed.
Cost accountant.
No.
Now this is something which is also important. QR code printed on visiting cards contained his name, office, and residential address, contact details, email ID, name of the firm's website. So, can you have a QR code on your visiting card? The question is, can you have QR code on your visiting card? The first question is, can we
No,
have
sir.
QR code or not?
No, sir.
Yes, sir. We can have QR code on visiting card.
Sir,
Yes, we can have, sir. But details should be which are permitted.
Yeah, so the details should be only those details which is permitted. So after scanning, if you are getting any sort of detail which is prohibited to be mentioned on the visiting card, then that QR code will not be allowed. That means you will be held GPM. If not, then that QR code is permissible. In this case, do you think there is any sort of detail which is like not permissible?
Residential address.
sir, firm name of the firm website and email ID and contact details. All those things are not allowed. Firm, मतलब ultimately, firm.
No, no, these details. Why can't you mention your contact details on your visiting cards? What will
Sir,
you specify then in your visiting card? If you
नहीं,
are
we
not
can
specifying your
mention
email
our
ID,
contact details, but the
huh?
firm's contact details and the website of the firm.
Huh?
We cannot mention. Oh, sorry, sir. We can mention.
Residential address.
Residential address.
Residential address also there is any no as such prohibition.
Sir, all the informations are allowed
Yeah.
on the
So in
in
your
the QR
visiting
code on the
card,
visiting card.
you will be providing that to the client. All these details can be there: name, office address, residential address, contact details. So you can give your contact details to the person. These contact details could be your. Sometimes you will give what 2 3 contact details, right? 2 3 numbers. One could be office. One could be your personal mobile number as well, email ID, and name of the firm's website. So this is allowed. QR code should not contain information which is otherwise not permissible to be printed on visiting cards. All this information are permissible. So you will not be held guilty of professional misconduct. Clear? Any doubt? You are having doubt with respect to residential address, right? Residential address. Why do you think we can't like specify on our visiting cards? If we can
No,
give
so we
our
can.
contact details, right?
There is
If any
no
sort of
prohibition as such.
if he want to approach, if you are not present on the office or any sort of approachment is required by the client, then definitely he can have an alternative address as well. So all these details are allowed. Then come partners inform multinational corporation, not client of the firm. partners informed an MNC, and this MNC is not the client, not our client. So my partners, they informed an MNC, and this MNC is not my client, that Mr. Y, the former partner in charge of taxation of one of the largest accounting firms of the world, had joined them as partners. So what we as a partner told one MNC, that one of the respected partners in the industry, who is in charge of taxation of one of the largest accounting firms, say example, who is in charge of taxation of Google, or who is in charge of taxation of Amazon, is now going to be joined in our firm as a partner. This we told to another MNC. Is this allowed? Yes, Suneshwaran.
No, no, sir.
So we are again doing what?
Advertisement and soliciting claims.
Advertising as well as
Claim-
soliciting. Right.
Claiming seniorities.
So you can write both clause 6 and 7. Both has to be mentioned. Are we clear till now? Clause 7. We just finish off with two of the biggest clauses, clause 6 and clause 7. Now we come on to clause 8, which is again a big clause. So clause 8 tells you what I have already told you this. Schedule 1 part 1 clause 8. Schedule 1 part 1 clause 8 deals with prior communication with the previous auditor. Prior communication, mark my words, prior communication. That means what? Before acceptance of the audit, you have to communicate with with the previous auditor of the client. So prior communication with the previous auditor is mandatory before accepting the position as an auditor. Before accepting the position as an auditor. So CA in practice shall be deemed to be GPM if you will be held GPM if you accept a position as an auditor which is previously held by another chartered accountant or a certified auditor, without, if you do not first communicate with him in writing. If you do not first communicate with him in writing, you will be held GPM. Clear? So what is the objective of clause 8? I told you, whenever I write objective, you will also have to write that objective in the answer also, because that objective is being specifically mentioned by ICA in the suggested answer there. So in the clause, one of the objective we saw in clause 1 was that the objective of the clause 1 was that that public in general will be now aware about any person, so that no person can fool any public that he is a qualified professional. No person can fool around the public that he is a qualified professional. Similarly, objective of clause 8 is what? That you as an auditor should be aware about the fact that why the client is coming to me and leaving that CA firm. Is there any disqualification which was made by the earlier accountant, by the earlier auditor, or is there any sort of maleficent practice, manipulative practice being carried out by the client, because of which auditor has denied auditing the client? So all these sort of details you will try to figure out with communicating with the previous auditor. Clear? So that is the objective, to ascertain whether there are any circumstances which warrant incoming auditor not to accept the appointment. Just pay specific focus to all these points. These are all, each and every point in clause 8 is very, very important. Question can come from each and every line. So now just see the professional reason for not accepting an audit. So if at all you communicated with the auditor and then you found out certain reasons, then there could be certain reasons for you to not to accept the audit. Yes, just now I saw it. The objective is only to see whether we can accept the audit or not. And there could be certain reason A, B, C. These are three reasons that institute provides because of which you should not accept the audit. You should not accept the audit. For the first two reasons, for these two reasons, A and B, you should not accept the audit only. You should not accept the audit. For this C point, you can accept the audit, but you should not. You can accept the audit, but you should not. You can accept the audit in case of unjustified qualification by the previous auditor. That is, the previous auditor unjustifiably qualified or modified his audit report. In case he did so, then you can accept. In case not, that is, the qualification is justifiable, then you should not accept the audit. However, you may. But in case of A and B, you cannot accept the appointment as an auditor. If you do so, then you will be held GPM. The first is in relation to non-compliance of the provision of section 139 and 140 of the Companies Act. That means what? There they have not fulfilled the condition with respect to appointment of auditor, or say removal of auditor. That is section 140 deals with what? Removal of auditor. So they did not remove the auditor in accordance with section 140, that is previous auditor was not removed accordingly, and now you are accepting without confirming that section 139 and 140 was complied with. And without that, if you are accepting as an auditor, then you will be held GPM under clause 8 as well as clause 9. Clause 9 also you will be held GPM, because clause 9 specifically says what? Clause 9 specifically says that if you accept an appointment as an auditor of a company without ascertaining that the requirement of section 139 140 has been duly complied with. That means what? Clause 9 also says that if you are accepting your position of an auditor without ascertaining the fact that they have complied with the provision of section 139 and 140 of the Companies Act, then you will be held GPM. You have to ascertain first that yes, the appointment is valid according to Companies Act. Then only you will be allowed to accept the position as an auditor. If you fail to do so, then you will be held GPM under clause 8 as well as clause 9. Clear? Similarly, non-payment of undisputed audit fees by auditee other than in case of sick unit. So two things is important here. One is undisputed audit fee and the second one is sick units. So we'll just try to quantify what is sick unit and try to identify what is undisputed audit fee. So what do you think? Tell me, Nikita, if the audit fees, if the audit fees is 5 lakhs, which is being specifically mentioned in your profit and loss account, audit fees is 5 lakhs, and these financial statements have been signed by the director, and in the audit report it's also signed by the auditor. Do you think if this audit fees is not paid, if this audit fees is not paid and I accept the position as an auditor, I'll be held GPM?
No, no, sir.
No, I won't be held GPM. Why?
Because audit fees can stand outstanding.
Audit fees is
Audit fees can stand outstanding.
can stand outstanding based on your practical experience, right?
Yes.
So, but what does clause 8 says? That if audit fees is not paid to the previous auditor, there are certain cases where we have to approach to the client and tell them that first you have to pay to the previous auditor, then only I can accept your books of account to audit for. And if not done, then it will be prohibited. The clause itself specifically says this: the professional reasons for not accepting an audit would be non-payment of undisputed audit fees by auditees other than in case of sick unit. If you accept the audit, then you will be held GPM under clause 8. You can be held GPM under clause 8. Why? Because you have to ensure that your brother gets the fees that he has worked for, right? One brother has to take care of the other. So here the question was, what I wanted to ask was with respect to whether this is a disputed audit fees or undisputed audit fees. Whether this is a disputed audit fees or undisputed audit fees. Nikita.
Undisputed. Because
Undisputed. Why? Because director also has signed these financial statement and auditor has also given the same report without any qualification on the audit fees. And therefore auditor will tend to have his fees received. It's not like what you are saying, Nikita. It cannot be outstanding for so long. Audit done in August, and then next year auditing will be done in next year, next August, next July, next September. Till then audit fees has to be paid. If not, then you cannot accept the appointment as an auditor. Are we clear? What could be disputed audit fees is that the client is saying that the fees is 5 lakh and auditor said that we agreed on 10 lakhs. Then this is disputed audit fee. We are talking about undisputed audit fee. Undisputed audit fee means what? The fees which is specified in the financial statement and is being signed by the directors and is being signed by the auditors. Similarly, we need to now quantify the SIC units, because in case of SIC units, even if the audit fees is not paid, still it is allowed for you to accept the appointment as an auditor. So what is SIC unit? Any unit which is in existence for more than or equal to 5 years, for more than or equal to 5 years, and whose net worth is negative. Net worth is negative means what? Asset minus liabilities. Asset minus liabilities will be coming to be negative. Net worth is what? Shareholders fund plus your reserves and surplus and everything. That means what? All assets minus all liabilities. And if it is coming out to be negative, that means what? Your net worth is negative, and in that case you will be called a SIC unit. And in that case, even if the audit fees is not paid, still you can accept the position as an auditor. But remember, the entity should be in existence for more than or equal to 5 years for SIC unit. This all these things we have given here. Undisputed audit fees and SIC unit. So see here, they have specifically said that in the first two case means what? A and B. An auditor who accepts the audit would be what? GPM, right? And in the last case means what? C1. I have highlighted this therefore with the same color, yellow color, right? In the last case, he may accept the audit if he is satisfied that the attitude of the retiring auditor was not justified. The qualification done by the previous auditor is not justifiable, and therefore in that particular case he may accept the appointment auditor he may accept the appointment as an auditor if he feels that the retiring auditor had qualified the report for good and valid reason. But if he find that the appointment sorry the justification is just the removal is justifiable, sorry the qualification is justifiable, modified audit report is okay, yes, then he should refuse to accept the audit. Clear? This is important. There is also a question just beside this. Go through that. Yes. So you'll have to write what? You will have to write clause 8 language, clause 8 giving reference of clause 8 part 1 schedule 1 and entire language. Then you will also have to write the objective of the clause, objective of clause 8, and then you will have to write this issuance of qualified audit report. In the first case, auditor who accepts the audit would be GPMN, but in the last case, he may accept the audit if the modification was on the grounds of unjustifiable reasons. However, the modification is for good and valid reasons, then he should refuse to accept the audit. These all things you will have to then conclude accordingly. Clear? Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So now let's come to previous auditor is not avoidable for accepting payment of undisputed audit fee. So what does it say? Suppose Dhanlakshmi was the previous auditor and client came from Dhanlakshmi to me this time, and what I requested that please first give the payment to Dhanlakshmi. If you do not make payment to Dhanlakshmi, I cannot simply accept the appointment as an auditor. And Dhanlakshmi is also worried about her Lakshmi, right? So Dhanlakshmi is being worried, and therefore I'll tell that please go and first make payment to Dhanlakshmi, but Dhanlakshmi is out of India now. Dhanlakshmi is out of India and her UPI is also not working, neither his bank account details are with the client. So in essence, the client cannot make the payment to the previous auditor. Then what will I do? What can I do then? The client cannot make payment to the auditor. Then in that case, I'll tell the client that you will have to issue a demand draft in favor of Dhan Lakshmi. And this demand draft, why I'm calling him for issuing the demand draft, because once demand draft is issued, the bank has to make the payment, right? It cannot bounce, unlike check can be bounced in the case of insufficiency of fund, but demand draft cannot bounce. You must be aware about the reasons why institute also earlier used to ask demand draft. In our times when we used to enroll in OTC, or in case of IPCC, we used to issue demand draft in favor of institute. So check can be bounced, but demand draft cannot bounce. So you will have to tell the client that yes, in that particular case, incoming auditor may advise the client to purchase demand draft of the amount equivalent to debt fees of the retiring auditor and may accept the audit assignment after verifying the same. Are we clear that? Any doubt? Now, how can you communicate? So the following could be normal course by which you can communicate. You can communicate through these four means only. First is by way of letter sent through RPAD. Do you know RPAD? Registered Post Acknowledgement Due. You must have heard this. In many of the cases in Contract Act and even in Companies Act, Section 143, subsection 12, in the case of fraud being amount exceeding 1 crore, then you have to specifically communicate the amount of fraud or the fraud nature, everything, to Ministry of Corporate Affairs, Secretary MCA, right? Secretary MCA, you have to inform them in a sealed envelope by way of RPAD, Registered Post Acknowledgement Due. So by RPAD, it happens what, that once the person receiving the post, they will acknowledge that yes, they have received the post. So that is why we are emphasizing on communicating only through RPAD. If they give you an exam that you have communicated by way of certificate of posting, so here you won't be getting any acknowledgement, and therefore this is not a means which is allowed by the institute, and you will be held GPM if you communicate through this. Clear or not? Pay attention whatever I'm saying right now. All these things are very, very important. Communication has to be done by RPAD. If not by RPAD, you can simply go by hand and deliver to them and take an acknowledgement against a written acknowledgement. You must have visited sometimes income tax department or GST department for submission of any document. So you go with what, two set of copies, right? One copy you submit it to the department, and another copy you get the sealed of income tax department and sign of, that is what, receiving that yes, income tax department has received the same document with them. And then we bring among with us what, the copy, that is what, an acknowledgement you can bring, or any sort of copy. So by hand against a written acknowledgement or acknowledgement of the communication from retiring auditor's wide email address registered with the institute or his last known email address. Important, very, very important. This is being asked by the institute in an MCQ. And the question was that I was communicating with the previous auditor. I was communicating with the previous auditor on a mail ID which was not mentioned on their website or on their any platform, on their visiting cards, anywhere in their professional documents. That means what? That was not their official email ID. That was not their official email ID. However, it says also what? It also said that this email ID. Sorry, I just told you the wrong question. The question was the email ID in which we communicated was not a registered email ID with the institute. The email ID in which we communicated was not a registered email ID with the institute. However, that email ID was being shown on the website of the company. So will this be allowed? Yes. So you have to specifically focus on each and every line, that yes, you can communicate on email ID which is registered with the institute, or your last known official email address will also work. Last known official email address also works for you, or the email ID which is registered with the institute. Clear? So they can ask on each and every point. And then fourth is through UDIN, which is now not exactly implemented, but institute is trying to figure out a way by which they can also implement a method in which you can communicate with the previous auditor by using the UDIN. So by UDIN also you can communicate, but this has to be separately dealt with by the institute in future. So fourth point is you can keep it in abeyance, but yeah, first 3 points you have to be aware about. First was with respect to RPAD, second was with hand, and third was with through email address. You can communicate in on email by on the email address which is registered with the institute or your last known official email address. Can you communicate it on WhatsApp? So according to clause 8, no, you cannot. But yeah, in essence, in practically, if we see, WhatsApp is kind of a platform which is being used on for official purpose also, right? So many of the firms are using WhatsApp also to communicate the same with the previous auditor, and many of the firms are also not communicating also, right? So both either way, you are using WhatsApp or you are not communicating, you will be held GPM according to clause 8 here, according to clause 8 in exam. Now the question comes, if at all you tried to communicate but the premise you found is logged, you found that the premise is logged, then what, Krupali? If you find that premise is logged, you found that the premise is logged and you received back your RPAD, that the premise has been logged, can you start the audit of the client? Can you start with the audit? What do you think? Hmm? Yes. Yes. So she's also saying yes. So yes, we can start with the audit if the premise is found logged. Then what we as an auditor can do, right? We got the acknowledgement that premise found is logged. Assume that we can assume that it is being received by the previous auditor. We can assume that it shall be deemed to have been delivered. It shall be deemed to have been delivered. We'll assume that after a day or two or three, he will read this post. He will read this communication. Then again, firm not found at the given registered address. And now again, this post has been received back. That is the firm in which you are trying to communicate. The address is not the registered address. I mean, the registered address at which you are trying to communicate, the firm itself is not present there. There is no presence of firm. So we'll have to verify now that whether this registered email address or whether this registered address with the institute is the same that is registered with the institute. That is registered address. If it is the same as that is registered with the institute, then you can assume it is to be deemed to have been delivered. Again, you can start with the audit. The letter will have to be deemed to have been delivered. Special audit under Income Tax Act 1961. Now, this communication, do you think if I am being appointed as a tax auditor, I should communicate previous statutory auditor, that is previous company auditor? With whom should I communicate? I should communicate with previous tax auditor or previous company auditor?
Previous tax auditor.
So as a tax auditor, if I am being appointed, I should communicate with the previous tax auditor. So this clause 8 does not run on parallel lines. Does not run on parallel lines. That means what? If this is a tax auditor, then you have to communicate with tax auditor, not with company auditor. Company auditor will communicate with previous company auditor. However, for the purpose of tax audit, since it is done under a statute, and therefore you can also say company audit is also a statutory audit, and similarly tax audit is also because of the mandatory requirement of Income Tax Act, Income Tax Statute, and can also be called as statutory audit. Therefore they specifically mentioned that in the case of tax audit, it would be a healthy practice if you communicate with the company auditor as well. It would be a healthy practice if you communicate with the statutory auditor, your company auditor. Are we clear on this point? Also, this can also be again asked. This is not yet asked by ICI. Other, in case of internal auditor, should he communicate with the company auditor or statutory auditor? You can say no, he need not do so, because this is run on parallel positions. Clause 8 runs on parallel positions. Uh, that that means you need not communicate with the auditor who is not the same auditor, previous auditor. That means internal auditor will be communicating with the previous internal auditor. Tax auditor will be communicating with previous tax auditor, but in addition, it would be a healthy practice if he communicate with the statutory auditor. Communication in case of assignments done by other professionals. Just now we come across like that example, internal audit. Do you think internal audit can be done only by CA? Can it be done by MBA? Can it be done by CS? Right? You must be aware about this. That internal audit can be done anyone by other than CA also it can be done. So let's say other professional has done the internal audit last year. So communication in case of internal audit, it was done by the other professional. Now do you need to communicate with them also? Do you need to communicate with them also? Then again, it is not mandatory, but it would be a healthy practice to communicate with them as well. It would be a healthy practice to communicate with them as well. And then there are sometimes if you have went to bank audit, if you have gone to bank audit, you must be aware about the time limit in which we need to adhere to. In a day or two, we need to complete and finish off the entire branch. The statutory audit for all the branches which we come across during April month. April month, all the branch audit comes to the auditor if you are being empaneled as a bank auditor. And then all these branches, if example for suppose for SBI, all the branches have come, branch audit you have done. So all the branches LFAR will be combined in the HO, and then the SBI auditor will issue his final audit report. So all the branch audit is being done by each and individual auditor. This is you have very little time to complete this branch audit. For a day you give only a day or two or three for completing the branch audit. So in that case, do you think you will be able to communicate with the previous auditor, and till the communication comes back to you regarding what, regarding any objection that you should not perform the audit of this client or that client, then do you think you can wait till then? Since this is the audit is on very short notice, the audit requires very short time period. In those cases, for example, in the case of government audit, in the case of bank audit, in those cases you can start with audit. You can send the communication first to the previous auditor, then you can start with the audit, subject to the condition that you will tell the client that this is only a conditional acceptance of the audit. This is not a full acceptance of the audit. This is a conditional acceptance of the audit, is based on the condition that I will receive no qualification from the previous auditor's communication. If I receive any qualification from the previous auditor that I should not perform, according to me I should not perform your audit, then I may stop the audit there itself. This has to be a conditional acceptance. Clear? So that is what they are saying. Lack of time in acceptance of the government audit in case of audit of government companies, banks, branches. Time schedule given for assignment is such that there is no time to wait for the reply. We cannot wait. The incoming auditor may give a conditional acceptance of the appointment and commence the work which needs to be attended to immediately after he has sent the communication. You can start with immediately, but it should be a conditional acceptance. And in the letter of conditional acceptance, you should clearly mention the client that this acceptance is subject to any professional objections that you may receive from the previous auditor, and he will decide his final acceptance after receiving the communication from the previous auditor only. Any doubt till now? Yes. Any doubt? Then Lakshmi, tell me what I did. That one of your client came to me and I accepted the audit, and you felt that I snatched your client, and you are not happy with that, and therefore you filed a case with the court. And now I am aware that you are now I know that you are already aware about the fact that your client has come to me, and therefore I treated this as a deemed communication that I have communicated to you. Since you are already aware about the fact that your client has come to me, that means you know that there is no need of communication to you, that your client has come to me, or previous communication is not required. So I have deemed this as a prior communication to the previous auditor. The fact that you filed a case in the court of law, will this be an implied communication? This is an implied communication. Is this allowed under clause 8? What do you think,
No,
Dhanlakshmi? No. Why?
it should be in writing.
It should be in writing. And secondly, what is the objective of clause 8? What is the objective of clause 8? Yes, Dhanlakshmi. Objective of clause 8, what is it? Are we just supposed to communicate only that we need to ensure, or we need to ensure that we do not accept the audit of which we should not have accepted? What is the purpose of communication with the previous auditor? For the sake of communication, for the sake of making the previous auditor aware about the fact that the client has come to me, or the purpose is to ascertain the facts because of which we should not accept the audit? What is
Not
the
accept
objective?
the audit.
Right?
Both. Yes.
No, not both. The purpose is to ascertain the facts that we have not accepted the audit, we have accepted the audit which we should not have accepted. To ascertain the fact that why, if at all there is any reason, we should not have accepted the audit. The purpose is not to make the previous auditor aware about the fact that his client has come to me.
Yeah. Right.
Right? So this implied
Yes, sir.
communication, I implied what,
Hmm.
that you already are aware about the fact that this audit is being come to me, but that is not the purpose of clause 8. Clause 8 purpose is to ascertain the fact that whether we should have accepted the audit or not, and therefore I should have communicated with you in writing. Right? So this implied
Yes, sir.
communication, this might be asked, you can write this as probable future question. This is given in study material since long and not yet tested in any platform, and this is an old case study from 1990s, I guess 1990s or 2000. This was the case. In this case, what happened was the respondent, that is the new auditor, me, Yash, new auditor, respondent. This respondent, why am I being called as respondent? Because Dhanlakshmi is the appellant. She filed the appeal, right? So I am the respondent here, and I did not communicate with the complainant or the appellant. I did not communicate with Dhanlakshmi, being the previous auditor, while accepting the appointment of the aforesaid companies. The fact that the matter was impliedly in the knowledge of the Dhanlakshmi, as contemplated by the respondent in terms of the minutes of the meeting held between the complainant and the respondent, does not absolve my responsibility from me, does not absolve the respondent from ensuring the compliance with the requirement of clause 8. I have to still communicate with the previous auditor and ascertain the facts because of which I should not have accepted the audit. The onus lies on the incoming auditor to communicate with the ongoing auditor, outgoing auditor. Are we clear? So quickly tell me the answer, Mehak. Communicated with previous auditor over phone. Will this be allowed, Mehak?
No, sir.
Sent a letter under certificate of posting. Will this be allowed, Mehak?
No.
Appointed as internal auditor of a company. You are being appointed as an internal auditor of company, and you are failed to communicate with the state auditor of a company. Is it okay?
As a healthy practice, the internal auditor should communicate, but it is not a necessity.
So as a healthy practice, you can communicate, but it is not a necessity. That is the case with tax audit. Tax auditor should communicate with previous auditor. In the case of internal audit, there is no as such requirement given even under clause 8. Not even healthy practice is mentioned. So applicable to situation in which one auditor replaces another auditor, and not in the case of what? Parallel position. So internal and statutory audit is running in parallel position. The clause 8 does not apply to auditors in parallel positions. You should have communicated with internal auditor, and you are not required to communicate with previous statutory auditor. Communication after commencement of audit, do you think this will work?
No. No.
So I told you what? Prior communication, previous communication, right? Now I told you about clause 9. A CA in practice shall be deemed to be GPM if he accepts an appointment as an auditor of a company without first ascertaining from it, in respect of such appointment, whether or not the requirement of section 139, 140, section 141 of the Companies Act have been complied with. That means I will be held GPM if I do not ascertain the fact that these requirements of section 140, 139, 141 have been complied with. So I will be held GPM under clause 9 if I fail to ascertain the requirement of section 139, 140 compliance. So I'll just straight away come to the question first, and I hope you remember certain provision of Companies Act. I hope you remember certain provision of section 139, 140. So first is with respect to X was appointed as auditor of ABC Limited, but he declined to accept the appointment. So board of director appointed CAY. What do you think? What do you think, Suneshwaran? Me. Suppose Suneshwaran, you were appointed as an auditor of ABC Limited, but you declined to be accepted as the appointment. you declined the appointment as an auditor. Now the board of directors of the company has appointed me as an auditor. CA Yash has been appointed as an auditor, and I accepted the audit. Do you think I will be held GPM, Suneshwaran?
Yes, sir.
Why?
It must be communicated by the board of director and you should give acceptance.
It should be what? Communicated with?
CAY and acceptance should be given that he has complied with the provisions of companies. Sir.
Yeah, but I need to ascertain that whether based on this case, based on this question, facts given here, BOD has appointed me as an auditor after you declined appointment as an auditor. So, according to these facts and based on clause 9, do you think any provision of Companies Act is violated? And I've ignored that and simply without any such ascertainment, I have accepted the appointment as an auditor. Do you think any provision of Companies Act is violated?
No ideas.
So
Who
the
appoint?
appointment shall be made by shareholders,
Yeah, who appoints the auditor? Appointment of
board of
Mr. X,
director.
appointment of auditor, appointment of Suneshwaran was done according to Companies Act only of ABC Limited was done by shareholder. Now X denied the appointment. Therefore, it is not the case that BOD can appoint the auditor. Appointment of auditor anyway has to be done by shareholder, has to be approved by shareholder, subsequent auditors. All the appointment of a subsequent auditor has to be done by shareholders only in AGM. Therefore, in this case, the appointment done by BOD, I will get appointment letter, right? I'll get the BOD meeting resolution, minutes of the meeting. So I should have asked minutes of the AGM also whether shareholders have approved the AGM, whether shareholders have approved the appointment of myself as an auditor. And therefore, if I have not received the same, I should not have accepted the appointment as an auditor. And therefore, in this case, if accepting the audit, I will be held GPM. Correct? Now, Kapil, quickly tell me, auditor died. Auditor died. Now the new auditor is appointed by board of director. Is this allowed, Kapil? Do you remember casual vacancy section 139 subsection 8? How do you fulfill casual vacancy? How do you fill the vacancy? Casual vacancy.
Sir, can't recall the
Yes,
Companies Act
anyone?
section.
Casual vacancy can be fulfilled by the board of directors within 30 days.
Casual vacancy can be filled by board of director within 30 days.
Board-
So what do you think in third question? Auditor resigned. Casual vacancy created. Now the new auditor is again appointed by BOD. In both the cases,
Yes.
you accept the appointment as an auditor. Do you think
If
In
it
I
is
appointed?
last
fulfilled within,
case,
Yeah,
in
if it is
last case,
fulfilled,
I could not. Yeah, I could not hear you, Meg.
so
in last case,
if
there was some
with
condition regarding around that shareholders approval within 30 days.
Yeah. So 139 subsection 8, you can just divide this in two parts. One is because of 3D and one was because of resignation or other than 3D. 3D was death, disqualification or dissolution of firm. If because of these three reasons there is a casual vacancy being created, death of an auditor, auditor got disqualified in between, or audit firm got dissolved, then in this case BOD can appoint. Appointment can be done by BOD in next 30 days. But in case of resignation, BOD will make the appointment, however, has to be approved by shareholder in an EOGM within 90 days. Has to be approved by EOGM within 90 days. So in this case, BOD appointment, I will be held GPM. But in here, when the auditor died, I will not be held GPM because all the section compliance, Companies Act compliance have been done. So clause 9 basically deals with what? Compliance of section 139, 140, 141 of Companies Act. This is also very, very important. An MCQ has been drafted by ICI in one of the case study in your MCQ booklet. So let's just see this provision. Where an auditor resigns or does not offer himself for reappointment as an auditor of a company, he shall send the communication in writing to the board of director of a company giving reasons thereof. You must be aware about this section 140 subsection 2. Where you are resigning yourself as an auditor, you have to give reasons to the company. You have to give reasons to the ROC in form ADT 3. In form ADT 3 you have to submit the reasons, and in the case of government company you have to also submit the reasons to uh, company, that is BOD, to the ROC as well as to the C&AG also. So this is what they are saying: he shall send the communication in writing to the board of director of a company giving reasons thereof if he considers that there are professional reasons connected with his resignation or not offering himself for reappointment, and he shall send a copy of such communication to the ICAI. That means what? Section 140 subsection 2 does not require you to communicate to ICAI, but professional ethics requires you to communicate the reason for your resignation, reason for your unwillingness to get reappointed as an auditor, also to be communicated to ICAI, to the institute. This is not the requirement in section 140 subsection 2, subsection 3, but this is a requirement here. They have given here. Shall also be communicated to the institute. It shall be obligatory on the incoming auditor, new auditor, to obtain a copy of such communication from the board of director and consider the same before the acceptance of the appointment. You obtain the confirmation from the BOD that yes, the previous auditor resignation have been communicated to board, communicated to board of director, communicated to institute as well, communicated to institute as well. This is the case where auditor is resigning. That is, the auditor is not willing to get himself appointed, or auditor himself is resigning in between. But where an auditor, even though he is willing to get himself reappointed as an auditor, even though he is willing to get himself as reappointed as an auditor, but you must be aware that just now we learned what section 140 subsection 4. Auditor gave his representation in writing that I acted diligently, I acted independently in dignified manner, and if being given a chance, I would love to get reappointed as an auditor of the company again. In this case, in this scenario, he would file with the institute ICI, a copy of the statement which he have sent to the management of the company for circulation among the shareholders. We read that right of representation letter 140 subsection 4. Just now what I told, I acted independently, diligently throughout the course of my tenure, and if being given the chance, I would love to get reappointed as an auditor. This circulation which is being given by the auditor to the board, and then board has to attach it with the notice of AGM and send it to across with the notice of AGM to shareholders. This representation has to also be submitted with the institute, a copy of such representation letter, and it shall be obligatory on the incoming auditor to obtain a copy of such a from the company. So from the auditor, the incoming auditor has to obtain from the board, incoming auditor has to obtain a copy of such communication from the company and consider it before accepting the appointment. Ethical Standard Board, on a review of the communications referred to in para A and B, may call for such further information as it may require from the incoming auditor, outgoing auditor, and company, and make a report to the council in case where it considers necessary. That means they might feel that there is a requirement which has not been fulfilled, so ethical standard board may interfere in between and might require council on a case to case basis to look into that matter. And the above procedure is also followed in the case of removal of auditor by the government and by the other statutory authorities. That means section 140 subsection 5, if you remember, where on a complaint made by any person, tribunal can remove you as an auditor. Tribunal can remove you as an auditor. Section 140 subsection 5, we will deal with that separately in company audit chapter. But in that case also, in the case of removal of auditor by the government or by the regulatory authorities, in that case also you have to submit the copy to the institute. So this is important because in MCQ you will see that it has to be communicated to ROC also, it has to be communicated to company also, it has to be communicated to ICI also, right? If you club all the reason, 140 subsection 2 read with this provision which is given under clause 9. Is this clear? Any doubt here? Nikita, Pawan, any doubt? No, sir. So then we'll move on to clause 10 then. Clause 8 also we have covered, clause 9 also we have covered. Now we'll move on to clause 10 and we'll try to finish off clause 11 and clause 12. That means we'll try to finish off schedule 1 today by 10. Fine. Do you need a break? Overloaded? Yes. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Chalo, we'll meet by 9:25 then. Take 5 minutes break. We'll start by 9:25 with clause 10. Yes, now. So clause 10. What was the language for clause 8, Krupali?
Accept the without ascertaining the compliance of section 139 140.
Clause 8, 8, 8, 8.
Accept the position of as auditor of previously held by another CA without first communicating with
Communicating
him
with
in
them
writing.
in writing. So now that we have done with schedule 1 mostly, we'll quickly, okay, I will not tell today. We'll start tomorrow with how we can learn the clause numbers in short. 5 to 10 minutes. I'll tell you how, what by what trick we can learn all the clause numbers of all the schedules and of all the clauses in schedule 1 as well as in schedule 2 also. So now starting with clause 10. A CA in practice shall be deemed to be GPM if he charges or offers to charge, accepts or offers to accept. Either is charging or accepting or offers to charge or accept in respect of any professional employment. That means in respect of any service that he is rendering as a profession, any fees which are based on percentage of profit. That means what? Or suppose which are contingent upon the findings or results of such employment. So suppose I am charging a fees for cost reduction. Example, I was being employed by a company for reducing the cost of the company, and I told that whatever the impact it will have on the profitability of the company based on previous 3 years average profit and versus the current year profit, whatever increase the profit will have, 10% will be my fees. Or suppose a client came to me for income tax case, and I told that if we win this case, then you will give me 50 lakhs. If we lose, then you might give me my you may give 5 lakhs. So contingent upon the findings or result of such employment, or it's based upon the percentage of profit, based on the percentage of fee, you are accepting a fee charge on the basis of percentage of profit, on the percentage of reduction in cost, or on the percentage of findings or the percentage of such employment. Then in that case, if you are charging such sort of fee, you will be held GPM under clause 10 of part 1 of schedule 1. Clause 10 of part 1 of schedule 1, except as permitted under any regulation made under this act. What do you think this is? Yeah, tell me.
Cricket bat and ball.
So this is bat and ball, right? Cricket game. You can see cricket game. So last night also we see that it is contingent upon various findings, various results. It is not certain, right? So you can link this. Does this look like 10 also? Yes or no? It looks like 10. So you can link clause 10 with cricket, which is also a contingent game. You can say it as a game of contingency, which will always depend on something or the other. So if you are also charging fees based on contingent event or based on result of certain event or based on profit, then you will be held GPM under clause 10 of part 1 of schedule 1. So same type of tricks I have used for other clauses. Like for clause 11, what do we see here? Clause 11, it tells us not to engage in any business or occupation other than profession. Not to engage in any other business or profession, else will be held GPM. And do you remember World Trade Center? World Trade Center, I used to have an office in World Trade Center. And then after the attack, the office got demolished. So I used to have a business in World Trade Center. I was engaged in another business or occupation. And this World Trade Center also looks like 11, yes or no? So kind of clause 11, you can link the same. So let's not go into that. Let's first complete all the clauses. Clause 10 deals says what? If you charge or offers to charge, even if you accept or offer to accept fee, which is based on result or contingent event or which is based on profit, except when permitted under the regulation made under this act. And regulation what we'll study is regulation 192. Regulation 192 we'll study. Try to recollect regulation number also. In clause 11, we will study regulation 190A. In clause 11, we'll study regulation 190A, and in clause 10, we study regulation 192. You can think of it as reverse. 10, 192. But when we go to 11, then it will be reduced 190A. Ulta. Just the opposite. In clause 10, we'll read 192, and in clause 11, we'll study regulation 190A. So 192 says that even if you offers to charge fees based on result or based on profit, still it is allowed. Still it is allowed. And that is what is also told by what? Clause also, right? Except as permitted under any regulation made under this act. And regulation 192 is made under this act, which says what? No chartered accountant in practice shall charge or offer to charge except or offer to accept in respect of any professional work fee which are based on percentage of profit or which are contingent upon the finding or result of such work, provided that these are allowed. These are allowed. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, these are allowed. So we'll just quickly go through one by one. Cooperative society, in the act of cooperative society, that is Cooperative Society Act. All the states have their own Cooperative Society Act. Chhattisgarh Cooperative Society Act, Maharashtra Cooperative Society Act, Tamil Nadu Cooperative Society Act, whatever be it. So in all the cooperative societies, you can find that in all that they have accepted that you can charge a percentage of paid up capital or percentage of working capital or the percentage of gross or net income or profit as an audit fee. You can charge based on percentage of paid up capital, working capital, gross or net profit of the cooperative society. It is allowed, and therefore institute has also allowed it. Similarly, debt recovery service. Now Nikita came to me that there is lot of indebtedness. There is lot of indebtedness. I mean there are lot of debtors which is not giving money back to Nikita. So she has hired me to recollect as a Vasuli bhai. Appointed as a I've been appointed as a debt recovery service agent. So I'll be collecting all the debts from them and giving it back to Nikita. So I told her that I can charge 2% of all the debts recovered. 2% of the debts recovered. So this is a kind of service which tells you to charge based on the service that you perform. So whatever the amount of debt, the recovery that I'll make, based on that the fees I'll receive, right? Similarly, based on the liquidation, if you remember, we used to do liquidation accounting, advance accounts in IPC. So liquidation, the liquidator used to get appointed, and how much amount liquidator used to charge? 2% of the assets recovered, or 2% of the assets after setting off of liabilities. Then adjustment used to be given, right? So this is a kind of a model, kind of a nature of business where you will charge based on the recovery you will make, based on the service that you will provide. Yes or no? So that is why debt recovery service, it is allowed for you to charge based on the percentage of debt recovered. Similarly, in the case of liquidator, it is allowed for you to charge based on percentage of the realization that you make or disbursement of the assets that you make. Similarly, cost optimization, you can charge based on percentage of the benefit derived. So what I told earlier, that is covered in exception, and therefore you will not be held GPM if in the example which I told you, that I will charge based on the percentage of increase in profit that you will make compared to last 3 years average profit. Whatever the increase in profit will be there because of my consultancy, you you performed well and cost was optimized, therefore I will charge 10% of the incremental profit, then that is allowed. Regulation 192 allows you. Similarly, certain management consultancy service, there are certain consultancy service which allows you to charge the service based on the result of the event or based on the results of such performance of the service. Then the valuer service also, don't you think if you bring with me 10 lakhs of gold and another person brings with me 10 crores of gold, whom I will charge more? Whom I will charge more? Definitely the person who brings me with 10 crores of gold, right? So for the purpose of valuation, if you are a valuer, if you are valuing the asset, then you can charge based on the percentage of value of property that you are valuing, percentage of value of property that you value. Similarly, for fundraising services, this is important, very very important. Certain fundraising service, it says for example IPO FPO. So I am doing all sorts of working, filing all the documents, SEBI, going to SEBI, filing the documentation. There are lot of documentation needs to be done with SEBI for the purpose of IPO FPO. And I have been appointed as for fundraising services. So I can now charge based on percentage of the funds that is being raised. Percentage of funds that is being raised. Similarly, as a chartered accountant, you came to me and Pawan came to me and Pawan told me that, sir, I need 5 crores of loan for my business. And I told you, don't worry, brother, I'll get 5 crores of loan from ICICI Bank. I have a good approach in with the branch manager. So I approved with him a 5 crore of loan and I charged 1% of the fees. Will this be allowed? What do you think as far as your practicable knowledge is concerned? Do you remember, is this allowed or not? So practically this is what is happening. But as per regulation 192, it is not allowed. So here the fundraising, here remember the fundraising here is IPO FPO concerned only, not the loan raised. Loan is not covered here in the fundraising IPO FPO, not the loans. So you'll see here based on the percentage of funds that you raise in case of IPO and FPO, not in the case of loan. Remember that. Here I have also written IPO FPO covered, not loan sanctioned. Specifically mentioned the same. And lastly, any other service or audit as may be decided by the council. So council has decided few service more. One was with respect to insolvency professional, because again this relates to what? Recovery, and more or less recovering the entity as an entirety. Similarly, non-assurance services provided to non-audit clients. Sort of you can say is consultancy, management consultancy services or non-assurance services that you provide to your non-audit clients. There also it doesn't require you to charge fees, uh, like absolute fees. You can charge fees based on percentage of profit, percentage of contingent events or results of certain events. So all these points you have to remember, because generally question comes from here only, if at all they want to ask in clause 10. So how will we remember? We can remember through this technique. कोऑपरेटिव सोसाइटी का डेट रिकवरी नहीं हो रहा है, so we are not able to recover for the cooperative society. Cooperative society can't recover their money, and therefore we are going for liquidating the same. Therefore we are going to liquidate the same. So मैं क्या बोला उसको, that I said for cost optimization try for once, try before liquidation, just try once for cost optimization, and for that matter you need to go to MCS, you need to go to management consultancy services, and there the value will increase, there your value will increase because the cost will decrease. Cost optimization you need to go to MCS and the value will increase, and you will be able to raise funds for your recovery of the entity. You will be able to raise funds for your recovery. So let's just quickly link this cooperative society debt recovery is not possible. Therefore, we went for liquidation. But before liquidation, one suggested me to go for cost optimization. And cost optimization, I need to have all the techniques of management consultancy services, MCS. MCS. So thereby reducing the cost, because of MCS, my value will increase. And since my value will increase, the persons will be willing to give me or share invest in my IPO or FPO. That means I will be able to raise my funds. So that is the whole linkage. So cooperative societies, you will tend to remember cooperative society where you can charge fees based on percentage of paid up capital, profit, net profit, gross income. Similarly, for debt recovery service, then you can go for liquidation. Liquidation again same, based on the assets recovered, you can charge fees. And cost optimization based on the profit that you, the benefits that has been derived. एंड कॉस्ट ऑप्टिमाइजेशन के लिए आई नीड टू गो टू एमसीएस, आई नीड टू अप्लाई एमसीएस टेक्निक्स, मैनेजमेंट कंसल्टेंसी सर्विसेज, एंड thereby will increase my value, and now FPO IPO will fully be subscribed, that is fundraising will happen. Have we learned regulation 192? Yes, everyone. So come now to clause 11. Come to clause 11. So I told you what clause 11 prohibits you to engage in any business or occupation. So CA in practice shall be deemed to be guilty of professional misconduct if he engages in any business or occupation other than chartered accountancy profession. So if you are a practicing chartered accountant, you need to practice CA profession. If you are engaged in any other business or occupation, then you will be held GPM unless that business or occupation is permitted by the council of the institute. Unless it is permitted by the council so to engage. That means it is permitted by the council of the institute that yes, you can engage in this business or occupation. And there is two types of permission that the council generally grants. One is generally permitted, like the permissions which is being granted generally, and the permissions which you require to get approval of institute. That means all these points 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 till 14 points you can do without taking approval of ICI. You can do it because these are already granted. Permission has been granted generally by ICI for carrying out all these activities. Institute has granted permission generally, general permission. And one is specific permission. Specific permission is where you need to take approval of ICI before starting with that business or occupation. Are we clear with this? So what I will recommend you first is that if we try to remember, retain all these 14 points, we then don't need to remember these points. Why? Because the points which are given here are exhaustive. That is, permissions granted by the institute generally are only these 14 points. Apart from these 14, anything you do is required institute's prior approval. Anything you do will require institute prior approval, and therefore you will just check, is this point covering in the permission generally granted? If not, you will require prior approval, and you will be held GPM in the case question comes that you started doing this and that is not covered in your 14 points. So are we getting the approach that will try to recollect and retain all these 14 points, and thereby we'll also cover specific resolution, specific permission also. We'll also cover that. So first of all, come to the proviso to clause 11. Proviso to, that is clause 11 itself, the proviso itself says that nothing herein contained shall disentitle a CA from being a director of the company. So if you are a director of a company, do you think you are engaged in any different occupation or business? If you are a director in any company, do you think you are engaged in any business or occupation? Example, you are a full-time director, executive director, versus you are a non-executive director. Yes, Meg, you were saying something?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing, sir.
So if I am an executive director, do you think I am engaged fully with the company or not? Executive director is the employee of the company. He has to give his full time to the company. So in that case, you are not allowed. You are not allowed. The proviso says that you are allowed to be director of the company other than managing director or whole-time director. Other than managing director or whole-time director, you can be a non-executive director. You can be an independent director. Getting this? In any company, unless in that company you or any of your partner is interested in the company as an auditor. That means what, my partner or my firm itself is the auditor of that company. Then in that company I cannot become the director. Are we clear? Because it will hamper the independence of the auditor. Yes or no? I am the director in that company and that company only audit I am doing. Then in that case I won't be able to objectively perform the audit. Without any biasness I won't be able to do the audit. So provided nothing contained herein shall disentitle a CA from being a director of the company other than MD or WTD. But also there is a condition that you or your partner should not be an auditor of that company in which you want to get yourself associated as a director. Clear? Now comes regulation 190A, which we need to learn. So first of all, we'll go through all the 14 points and then we'll see how do we retain all these 14 points. Clear? So Moti, in practice is generally permitted to engage in the following categories of occupation. All these occupation businesses we are being generally allowed to do so. So authorship of books, articles, you are allowed to write any books or articles. No need to take permission from the institute. You can be an author to a book or article. You can be a editorship. You can do editorship of professional journal. Now authorship and editorship, there are two different occupation. Authorship is when you are writing. Editorship is when you are expert in that and I'll be giving it to you so that you will check if at all there are any mistakes or there needs certain improvements, there needs certain editing. So editorship is allowed only for professional journals. Professional journals here means what? Professional journals here means those journals which relates to RCA profession. Those journals which are related to RCA profession. So quickly tell me, Nikita, do you think there is a journal which is being written by, say, Pooja on stock market, and that journal has been come to you for editorship? You are editing that journal. Do you think that is a professional journal? Whether this will be allowed, generally allowed, or you need to take a prior permission before doing so? Yes, Nikita.
So prior permission might be required
Prior
because
permission
it
will
is.
be required, right? Because these journals are like those journals. For example, you can say tax audit, journal on tax audit, journal on caro. All these are professional journals. So on professional journals, if you are getting editorship, then yes, you can do, because you are accustomed to it, you are using it, you are doing that only day to day, day in and day out, you are doing that only. So that won't take much of your time. Instead, you would start editing stock market journal. That would require your immense time and you won't be able to practice on your CA profession, right? Practicing. Then comes valuation of papers. You can apply for paper valuation to the institute and they'll give you what? Paper checking. After, I believe FCA, or after getting 3 years of experience. I don't remember exactly, but I was going through this notice, which institute generally tend to circulate after exams. They invite names for paper setter, paper checking. So who all are interested? Valuation of papers, acting as a paper setter. They also invite names for this. You are also invited for head examiner or as a moderator for any exam. Moderator is also very nice thing for you to go. After 3 years of experience, if you, I'll tell you, as a moderator, there is nothing much you have to do. You just have to go to like CA exam, all the CA exam, IPCC, final or foundation. You have to from 8 or 9 p.m. 9 a.m. You have to go see the papers have come or not, the where the papers have been kept, and then from that location you will have to go to the location in which the exam is going, and then be there for 2 to 5, and then that's it. Your task is over. Almost by 4 you will be free and you will get 5,000 per day, right? So institute is offering good amount of for moderator. Similarly, head examiner might be getting some amount. Acting as a paper setter and valuation of paper, all this you can do these activities are generally permitted by the institute. Clear? Then you can attend classes and appear for any sort of examination also. Suppose Nupur here was also preparing for IAS, right? You remember? Yes or no? In morning she cleared IAS, so she can also prepare for any sort of examination and she can attend class as well. Now part-time tutorship is also allowed under the coaching organization of the ICI. You must be aware about the institute that they are also running a coaching activity. They also teach all the subjects of IPCC, be it CF, IPCC, CA Foundation, CA Final. So if you are part-time associated with the coaching organization of the institute, then it is generally permitted. But other than coaching organization institute, other than any institute in which you are associated, in any educational institute, which is not the institute of ICI, ICI का coaching institute में it is allowed. But if any other institute you want to get associated as a part-time, then you will have to take specific approval. Similarly, private tutorship is also allowed. Private tutorship is kind of a thing which we are doing here, right? I am tutoring you all privately, not under the name of any institute, registered institute. Yeah. So part-time tutorship and private tutorship, but part-time tutorship is only allowed under the coaching organization of the institute. Remember that. Other than that, it is not allowed. Then holding life insurance agency, but only for the limited purpose of getting renewal commission. That means what? Suppose before becoming chartered accountant, you were also a LIC agent. Now you have made a lot of clients, and now after you cleared CA, you started with what? Certificate of practicing. You started practicing chartered accountancy, and now the institute tells you that you cannot hold LIC agency. You cannot be an agent of LIC, right? You are then will be deemed to have been conducting what? Other business or occupation. Therefore, you told institute that why already there are so many clients associated with me. I am not at all giving any time to them. I am just getting the commission from them. That's it. So for that purpose only, for the limited purpose of renewal commission, you will be allowed to have LIC agency or any sort of agency. Other than that, it is not allowed. Clear? Full-time agency or occupation, it will be calculated as a deemed full-time occupation or engaging in other occupation. Now acting as a surveyor and loss assessor under the Insurance Act, that is also permitted to you. If you have cleared any examination under insurance, cleared all that, and you can become a surveyor or loss assessor, because insurance companies generally they won't be passing any of your claims. They won't be passing any of your claims unless they assess the loss, or even after assessing they won't be passing. Now employment under CAs in practice or firms of such CAs. So institute definitely will have to approve this. You can be an employee under any CA firm and still hold a COP. Still hold a COP. This we are talking about practicing chartered accountant, right? Remember that. So you can still hold a COP and you can still be an employee under any CA firm. CA firm. And don't you think we are an employee under CA firm? The hard work that we do or the hard work that we can carry out in an agricultural activity is one or more same only. So therefore institute has also allowed you to carry out agricultural activity as well. For you to carry out agricultural activity, not anyone else. So you can on your own agricultural land carry out agricultural activity. Institute knows that since you have worked in a CA farm, you will definitely get success in agricultural land as well. Then holding of public elective offices. They also allow you to become a MP, MLA, MLC. But can you use this designation? Can you use the designation of MP, MLA? No. Clause 7 prohibits. You can although held this you can hold this position as MP, MLA, MLC. And then honorary office leadership of charitable, educational or other non-commercial organization you can hold. For example, chairman, vice president, president. You can hold this all the honorary office leadership of but non-commercial organizations, charitable trusts, charitable organizations, not profit motive organizations. Clear? Then these all these small points na you can write just beside it, not profit motive. I don't know, this is my interpretation, but institute might also interpret the same and give you in the exam. For profitable organization, if you are a chairman, if you are a CEO, then that is as good as managing director, as good as being a whole time director, right? Holding a leadership office of leadership in a commercial organization will not be allowed by the institute unless you take prior approval. Similarly, MP, MLA, MLC holding public elective office is allowed. Acting as recovery consultant in the banking sector is allowed, Vasuli bhai, right? And then acting as notary public, justice of the peace, and special executive magistrate. All these three is very very important. They have asked in MCQ. Special executive magistrate they have allowed without any prior permission. Justice of the peace, justice of the peace they have allowed, and notary public also. You can be a notary public as well. Notary public, you know, notary we have to attest notary. Then we go to any lawyer and they do notary for our agreement papers. So any doubt in any of the point? Any doubt? No? Then we'll see how we can learn all these 14 points. So just come above. I have written just one memory trick how we can learn this. Beti means what? Our daughter. Our Beti is a CA and is employed in a CA firm. So as I told you, my daughter is telling me that I am employed in a CA firm. I am exactly not able to differentiate whether I am employed in a CA firm or I am doing agricultural activity. I mean, the sort of hard work they tell me to do, I am not able to do. I am not able to differentiate. So, बेटी CA firm में हल जोत रही है, sort of similar activities, and no peace is there. No peace is there. So, justice of the peace. No peace is there, and notary, recovery consultant, any work they are giving them, they are giving her any work, any sort of work they are trying to just give him or give her. So notary, recovery consultant, all this sort of work they are trying to give it to her. So let's just see what we have from Beti. We have 8 points. From Beti we'll learn 8 points. You can see Beti, B for books. B for books. Two sort of books point. One is authorship of books, another was editorship. Editorship of professional journals, not ordinary, not normal books, professional journals only. So books we have 2 points. Now from E, examiner. Examiner, valuation of papers, acting as a paper setter, head examiner, moderator. So with respect to examination we have 2 points, and also you can attend any classes for giving any other examination. Similarly, T, for T you have tutorship. So you can be a part-time tutor in the coaching organization of the institute, or you can have your own private tutorship. From I we have what? Insurance. So you can hold LIC agency for the limited purpose of renewal commission only, and you can also be a loss assessor under Insurance Act. So Beti, we have overall 8 points. Once again, for B, books. So authorship of books and editorship of professional journals. From E, examination. So you can attend classes for any sort of examination, and you can be examiner, moderator, head examiner, or paper setter, valuer, paper valuer. From T, we have what? Tutorship. That is part-time tutorship and private tutorship. Part-time tutorship only allowed in the coaching organization of the institute. And with I, we have insurance, that is Insurance Act. You can become loss assessor or surveyor, and you can also hold life insurance agency under for only for the limited purpose of renewal commission. Then I told you she is employed in a CA firm as an employee, and she feels like she is doing such a hard work which is equivalent to more or less of agricultural activity. So owning an agricultural land and doing agricultural activity. And then I told you CA firm में हल जोत रही है means H means holding offices, H holding offices, public elective offices, or honorary office leadership in non-commercial organization. Holding public offices or honorary office leadership. Public offices will deal with what? MP, MLAs. Honorary office leadership will deal with what? Chairman, presidency in non-commercial organization or charitable trust, charitable organization. And lastly, recovery consultant, notary public. There is no peace in the firm, and special executive magistrate. All this you have to learn. So can I say we are done with 14 points easily? Then yes, we are through with clause 11. Any question that comes in clause 11, we will be able to sort out there is whether there is a GPM or not. Let's just see the questions now. There are few more points which are being left, which we'll deal with. New points which was inserted in November 2021, that we'll see later. But just come across this point: CA full-time employed in a software company. Do you think he'll be held GPM? Yes or no?
Yes.
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 CA engaged in part-time finance manager in a company. GPM, yes or no? Quickly. Is it falling in those 14 points or not?
Yes.
No, right? So it will be held GPM.
GPM.
Appointed as managing director of company.
GPM.
GPM. Appointed auditor of a subsidiary company accepts directorship of holding company. So this will learn that it says what seems to avoid independence hamperedness, to avoid uh, any sort of biasness, it should not get affected. Unbiasedness should not get affected, or any sort of avoidance to any biasness. It says that if you are a subsidiary company's auditor, you should not be a holding company's director. That means if you are already a director in holding company, then in any of its subsidiary company you cannot become an auditor. Or vice versa, if you are an auditor in any of the subsidiary company, you cannot become director in any of the holding company. Because ultimately, if you are a holding company director, you will have influence in the subsidiary companies. Yes. So in any way, that will hamper your independence. Appointed as editor of magazine which analyzes the performance of stock market. This we did, yes. So this is not allowed as correctly told by Nikita as well, because stock market professional journal nahi hai. It is a normal business journal, and therefore editorship of professional journal is only allowed. Generally permission is granted for editorship of professional journal under regulation 190A, under regulation 190A, read with clause 11 of part 1 of schedule 1. Offered editorship of company audit journal. Now this will be allowed, right? This will be allowed. Wrote a book on cooking. Is it allowed?
Allowed, sir.
Allowed. Authorship of any sort of book is allowed, be it cooking or be it even stock market. Then took over a chairmanship of a company and applied to council for permission 10 days later. So I told you what, prior permission has to be obtained, not after you have started the other business or occupation. Similarly, CAB accepted directorship of a company where chartered accountant, a partner of B, is auditor of a company. Yes, tell me, Pavan. This relates to the proviso to clause 11. What does proviso to clause 11 says? That you can be a director other than managing director or whole time director unless any of your partner or your firm is a auditor of that company in which you want yourself to be associated as a director. So that is what is happening here also, right? CAB accepted directorship of a company where CAC, a partner of B, is the auditor of the company. So you'll be held GPM, you cannot hold the directorship in that company. Trading in equity derivatives on own account and not on behalf of clients. What do you think? Trading in equity derivatives like Nifty, F&O.
Allowed, sir.
So institute has clarified on this part that trading on equity derivatives is being allowed by the institute. Earlier it was deemed to be carrying out any other business or occupation. But since most of the CAs are also doing trading activities as well, right? So they all went to the institute, and then institute has declared that yes, trading in equity derivatives on own account and not on behalf of the client is allowed. If you are doing it on behalf of the client, then that is a separate business occupation. Then that means you are running a stock market sort of institution in which you are trading on behalf of clients. You can trade on your own account, not on behalf of clients. In also in equity derivatives, earlier only equity trading in equity was allowed, not on derivatives of the equity, because derivative is considered to be a sort of speculative business, intraday transaction, or even if you are holding it for a month. but derivatives was considered to be a other business occupation. But now equity derivatives is also allowed for you. Trading in commodity derivatives, this is not allowed by the institute till now. So trading in commodity derivatives will tantamount to engaging in other occupations. So what is difference? Equity derivative could be, the difference will be what? Suppose you are purchasing Reliance futures, or suppose you are purchasing option on Infosys. This is equity derivatives. But suppose you are engaging in uh, silver options, silver futures. You are purchasing silver, gold futures. These are what? Commodity futures, commodity derivatives transaction. This is deemed to be carrying out any other business or occupation. Chartered accountant in practice is promoter director of AB Private Limited. Plus, he is also a sleeping partner in his family business. So yes, this we have not done. We'll see this. And CAPS 3 agricultural land started carrying out agricultural activity. Yeah, tell me about this. Last question, Kapil.
Yes,
Allowed
sir.
or not?
Allowed.
Allowed, sir.
Allowed, right? So owning an agricultural land and carrying out agricultural activity is allowed. So we should stop now. It's already past 10. We can continue sort of other remaining clauses of other remaining clauses of schedule 1 part 1 from tomorrow. Clear? So what I want you to revise till clause 11 perfectly, and also learn the language. At least learn the language. Do not try to remember the clause number. That will see tomorrow how to remember the same. I told you regarding clause 10, right? What was clause 10? Game of contingency, bad ball, right? Similarly, World Trade Center 11, I used to have an office there, another business engagement. So that we'll see tomorrow. Till then, you please try to revise. Also try to revise tax audit, because we will have a test on tax audit and P as soon as we finishes off with P. We'll have a test on tax audit and professional ethics, right? So revise and come. You already have loads of information flowing to you. I want you all to give at least 1 to 1.5 hours after the class. You will try to recollect easily faster in your later revisions. Okay. So see you tomorrow again, 7 a.m. So tomorrow will be the last one, that will be running till 10. After that, I'll be mostly taking till 9:30 only. Okay. Or I might take till 10:30 tomorrow. We'll see. Chalo. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you, sir.